The light in the church was dim. 2 covered bodies lie on the floor. She, small and fragile, kneels beside them, her shoulders trembling as she struggles to hold back her tears. Another lady asked. The Count and Countess died in a carriage accident? They never got along, but ended up dying together. The Count loved his ladies, and the Countess loved her luxuries. Wait, so, all that remains of the Losstree family is that sick daughter? Suddenly, she started coughing and pressed the handkerchief to her mouth. There were tears in her eyes. But when she looked at the handkerchief, there was blood on it. Seeing this, her hands began to tremble. At that moment, she thought, I just had to wake up in this body. One day, I woke up as Laria Losstree, inside the book The Grand Deal of the Empire. I liked my cute new face and not much else. That's because I'm destined to die at age 21. On top of that. Then suddenly, the door of the church opened, and she was standing there, watching. A few people came inside. They were all there to collect a debt. One of them asked, They died without paying me back? Then he raised his hand, stepped forward, and asked, There's nothing valuable at the Count's estate? Where are all their relatives? Where is your family, little kid? Give me back my money! She sat down, frightened, and asked, Money? He asked. That's right. What are you gonna do about my money? She replied with innocence on her face. I don't know what. Get out here, you idiot. The person who'd get me out of this mess should be coming soon. He shouted loudly. So, you're saying you can pay me back? In the original story, Laria didn't know she would die until she fell ill, and there were only 2 people who knew that besides her. One was her mother, Countess Losstree, and the other was. At that moment, the door opened. Everyone looked back, and then the man speaks. Hey, that's... The man looked at him and thought, Duke Claudin Ivan Icardes. When Duke Icardes stepped forward, the man asked out of fear, Why is Duke Icardes here? Watching Duke walk, Laria thinks, Nice walk, Archvillain. It was Duke Icardes. He was a quiet man who only cared about his lands, but when his wife died, he suddenly became power crazy. He then turned into the Archvillain of the story, letting nothing stand in his way in his path to complete domination of the nobility and the imperial palace. Though he was still gaining power, within a few years he became the head of the nobles. Then Laria thought, he even gets his son to marry the imperial princess. With power over the nobles and the imperial palace, it seemed he was about to achieve his goal. But the female protagonist, Princess Ilani, didn't fall for the duke's son. She fell for the story's male protagonist, ruining his perfect plan. The original story didn't say what his ultimate purpose was. Laria thought again. The author only mentioned it'd be in the epilogue, but I didn't have time to read it. Oh, here he comes. Duke Icardes stops and asks, Do you have somewhere to go? Laria replied, No, I don't. Then he smiles faintly and asks, Is that so? Well then, would you marry my son Evan? Hearing this, Laria thinks, There's that line of dialogue. I knew that was coming, but it's still startling. He just asked me straight up. Then she coughed slowly. Duke Icardes said, Matilda was close with your mother. Hearing this, Laria thinks, Matilda, right, she was the Duchess, who passed away while giving birth to her son. Duke Icardes said, If Matilda were still alive, she'd want you to come live with us. As such, I should take you in. Laria says, Oh, I see. Liar. At that moment she thought, like I'd fall for that. I know the whole original story. He's just starting to gain power. He wouldn't take me without a reason. After a while, Duke Icardes speaks. If you marry my son, I'll repay your debt, and I promise you a comfortable life. Laria replied, Thank you very much, father. Even if I know the original story, this is my best bet. If I have to die at a young age, I should just go along with it and live a comfortable life. Duke Icardes asked, Did you just call me father? I guess I'm just an extra in front of the Archvillain. She speaks, coughing. I'm sorry. You know, since we're now family. Then she trembled with fear. He turned back and said, It's fine, let's go. Laria says, All right. And that's how I ended up following Duke Icardes. Just as planned, the carriage is moving, and there's a soft rumbling sound. On the way to the Icardes estate, we stop by the palace to file a marriage certificate. Duke sits calmly in the carriage, eyes closed. With that certificate, my name became Laria Icardes. Seeing this, Laria begins to think, Of course, there's no wedding ceremony or anything. Then she leans toward the carriage window, staring in, and thinks again. Honestly, I'd be better off being a villainess. I can't believe I was born into this body. I should have been a rich and powerful villainess. My life sucks. When they reached the Imperial Palace, the maid showed Laria her room and said, "This is the room you'll be staying in." Seeing this, Laria shocked and thinks, "My life is the best." Maid said, "Please let me know if there's anything you need." Laria asked, "Oh, thank you. What's your name?" She replied, "I'm Lisa." "Pleased to be at your service, little madam." Laria speaks, "Oh no, just call me Laria, please. That'd be better for me." Hearing this, Lisa laughed and said, "All right, Lady Laria. Then I'll leave you alone. Get some rest." Laria replied, "Yes, thank you, Lisa." Then she let out a sigh of relief. Sadly, the outcome of the original story is the best I can hope for, since I'll die anyway. She sat on the sofa and began to think. Of course, it's not like I don't know the cure, but I can't get it here. I have a brother 5 years older than me, Fred. He's away studying abroad in the East Lands, but the region has been closed off due to the evil spirits living there. In the original story, Fred comes back after I die, and there is a scene where he cries about my cure in front of my grave. Laria recalls that Fred said, "Garba lung disease is common in the East Lands." Then he shouted loudly, "You can cure it if you eat 10 acacia tree fruits a day for 10 years. That means, my disease is curable." She coughed and thought, but even knowing that doesn't help. Acacia trees are rare. Their fruits are nearly impossible to obtain. I might be able to get 1 or 2, but not 10 a day. Then, suddenly, she looked out the window in surprise and said, "Wait, that's an acacia tree?" At that moment, she stepped outside and, seeing the acacia tree, began to think. Seriously, is it because I woke up in this body? Is this a sign for me to live a new life? Or to tear apart the original story's script? Whatever it is, whoever it is, thank you. She breaks off a piece at once and eats it. Then she said, "Thank you so much." At that moment, she thought, "All right, let me live beyond age 21 this time." 3 months later, Laria starts coughing violently. Lisa came forward and said, "Oh my! You're coughing up blood again. Are you all right?" Laria replied, "Yes, I'm fine, thank you, Lisa. Let's just hurry and get ready. The Duke must be waiting. Today's the day we're bringing Evan home from the academy," Lisa says. "But it's the first time I'll be meeting the Duke since the funeral. I can't make him angry. Thought he doesn't play a major part in the story. My husband, Evan, is a year younger than me. Evan was sent to the academy as soon as he turned 6. He's that cold-hearted to his own son. So of course he'd be like that to me, too. How flabbergasted must Evan be? He's only 13 and suddenly married to a girl he doesn't know." Our marriage was a huge issue in noble society. As the Duke continued to gain power, he started to face political pressure. Duke Icardes is trying to take over the palace through his son's marriage. We must stop him immediately. But as he had not yet honed his power sufficiently, the Duke was not prepared for their opposition. She stepped forward, lost in deep thoughts. "So that's why he decided to use me until his son grows up." The fact that our mothers were close friends was enough of an excuse. The Duke had loved his wife very much, and he would have done this if she was still alive. So that was said to be the reason behind this marriage. Plus, Duke Icardes knows that I'll die just when he needed me to. He heard my mother say that in front of his wife's grave. Eventually, talk of our marriage subsided as the other nobles let down their guards. Taking advantage of this, the Duke will continue to grow his power until I die. She thought again. In about 7 years, he'll have gained a lot of power. Then, he'll want to start taking over the palace itself, through the marriage of Ivan and Princess Alani. But the problem is, I'm not going to die this time. But what if I survive until I turn age 21? The law doesn't allow divorces, so I won't be able to get divorced, Lisa said. "Lady Laria?" Then she suddenly puts her hands over her ears. "If I don't die when I'm supposed to, won't he just kill me instead?" At that moment, Lisa asked, "Lady Laria, aren't we going to head out?" Laria trembles, takes a breath. She thinks again. "I can't let anyone find out that I'm curing my disease." She went to the Duke and said, "I'm sorry I'm late." Duke replied, "It's all right." Hearing this, she thinks, "He's still cold. Let's show him I'm still sick, so he won't suspect anything." Then she smiled and asked, "What's wrong?" Duke replied, "You look much better than last time we met. You look like you gained some weight too." Hearing this, she said to himself, "Shoot, I'm doomed." When the Duke turned back, she said loudly, "Father!" The Duke turned around and asked, "Father?" Seeing this, she began to think again. Why is he so startled? I called him that last time too. Then she smiled and replied, Yes, father, if you don't want me to call you that, Duke added. No. It's fine. What is it? She clenched her fist and speaks. Well, I want to ride in the carriage with you, Duke asked. What? Duke staring, confused. At that moment she thought, huh. Oh, well, because you need to see me coughing. Then she said, it's supposed to rain, and I'm worried you might get sick. Duke added, it's supposed to rain? But it's so sunny, she says. Oh, haha. Maybe that's tomorrow. Then she thought, so talking about the weather didn't work. Fine, let's just shed some fake tears. After a while she said, actually, now that we're family, I wanted to get to know you better, father. She thought, did this not work too? Duke said, get in. You get in first. Hearing this, she smiled, thought again. So it worked. It's kind of scary to get in the carriage with the Archvillain, but it's better than him suspecting I'm getting healthier. She began to think. He's been staring at me with that scary face the whole time. She recalls that, Duke said. Start talking. Mental distance. She began to think again. He needs to see me coughing up blood, but let's just start with saying something. Anything, then she asked. It's my first time seeing Evan. Does Evan know he's married? Duke replied. No, he doesn't. Hearing this, she thought, what a great dad. At that moment she added, I see. He graduated and got married at the same time. That's totally plausible. Right. Saying this, she thinks again. But all I can do for now is bend to the Duke's wishes. He uses his own son like a chess piece. If he realizes his plan isn't going to pan out, he'll get rid of me easily, she said. I hope Evan likes me. I want to get along with him. Duke asked. Why? Hearing this, she thinks. What do you mean, why? I don't know anymore. Let me just try and get on his good side. She smiled and replied. Because if he looks like you, he'll be really handsome. She looked toward the Duke and then said to herself, did he just smile a little? All right. This is the way to go. After a while she speaks. I just want to live here happily with you and Evan. Then she said in herself, but oh, my nose is feeling itchy. Then suddenly she started coughing. When she pulled the handkerchief away from her mouth and saw the blood on it, she thought, nice timing. She speaks. Oh, don't worry about this. I've been this way since I was young. I am sorry. Suddenly she began to think. I need to act as miserable as possible. When he asks me why I'm sick, reply with the saddest. Duke said, tell me, she replied. I'm fine. Duke asked, what you were just about to say. About living happily together. What did you mean by that? How can the three of us live happily together? Hearing this, she shocked and began to think. Huh? Wait, aren't you supposed to ask me if I'm okay first? Well. I'm too scared to tell him it didn't mean much. To live happily. What does live happily mean to me? Then she added, we could have parties when there are things to celebrate, and comfort each other when we're sad, laugh when there are things to laugh about, and care for each other. Just little things like that. After a while, she began to think. I didn't have a family in my previous life either, so I never got to share those little things with anyone before. They just popped up into my mind, but it feels weird saying it out loud. Maybe because I actually really do want those things. Duke asked, the little things that make you happy. Did you live like that back at Losstree estate? Laria replied, no, my father was a ladies' man, so he was never home. And my brother, Fred, was sent abroad to the East Lands for his studies because he stood up to our father. There were tears in his eyes when she said, you probably know, but it wasn't that great. Father didn't come home much. Duke added, that's true. Laria speaks. So, I want to live differently with my new family. I wanted to look good for you from the moment I met you. I don't know where I'd be if it weren't for you. You're my hero, father. I'll be really good to you. Father! Duke put his hand into his coat, took out a handkerchief, and handed it to Laria. Duke speaks. You can't cough into a bloody handkerchief. That's dirty. Seeing this, Laria smiled and began to think. Oh, so he doesn't like dirty things, like blood, Laria says. Thank you, father. Then she thinks again. But I need you to see me being sick, she says again. Thank you so much. Duke speaks. It's just a handkerchief. Laria smiled and said, but still, my father never cared for me like this before. They arrive at the junior academy. Then coachman came, opened the carriage door, and said, we're here. She steps out of the carriage and, looking around, thought, so this is the junior academy Evan is graduating from. It's pretty shabby. Well, children who have a lot of money and power study at home rather than here. After a while, Laria raised her hand and said to the coachman, "Wait," Duke added, "when we get back to the estate, order about 100 of these luxurious handkerchiefs." Hearing this, Laria thought, "What? Does that mean I need to cough up more blood?" Evan Linnaeus Icardes, the only son and heir of Duke Icardes, Archvillain. Evan gets his good looks from his father, but since the Duke never showed him any love, he grew up like a puppet, empty inside. He didn't even shed a tear when his wife died at an early age, and his marriage with the princess that his father set up wasn't happy either, which led the princess to cheat on him openly. Now that I'm in the story, that sounds terrible. Princess Alani was a self-driven woman, so she created a divorce law to marry her lover. After ending her marriage with Evan, she was finally able to be with the man she truly adored. If I had known I'd end up in this body, I would have read the epilogue. Suddenly Duke said, "Evan." Laria looked at him and thinks, "Evan? Wait, that's Evan Linnaeus Icardes? Whoa, he looks exactly like his father." "Like father, like son," Evan said. "Who?" Laria smiled and says, "Oh, I'm Duke Seapax, she's your wife." Then she thought, "Wait. If you just tell him that without explaining, how is he supposed to?" Evan added, "I see." She began to think, "So I guess he took that well." Evan says, "All right." Then she began to think again. "He's a year younger than me, but why is he so tall? He is good looking, but he doesn't look very friendly. He also looks a bit old for his age. It's fine. They say if you look older when you're young, you're just ahead in the race of life." After a while, she smiled and said, "I'm Laria Losstree. I mean, Laria Rose Icardes. Nice to meet you. Congrats on your graduation, Evan." Evan replied, "Thanks," she said to herself. "Wow, heartless. Much. Right, you're the guy who doesn't care if your wife dies or cheats on you," Duke said in a cold tone. "I got the letter your teacher sent 2 months ago. Why did you hit Sir Zerti?" Hearing this, she thinks, "He hit someone?" Duke said, "I heard he wasn't able to get up for 3 weeks." Hearing this, she thinks again. "What? 3 weeks? That's bad." Evan added, "He tricked me." Duke asked, "What did he say?" Evan replied, "He said he was my friend, but talked about me behind my back. I didn't want to be a jerk like him, so I just hit him up front. I couldn't stand his lies, especially since he was different in front of me, pretending to be a friend." Hearing this, Laria thought, "Poor Evan. I thought he wouldn't care about what others said about him." Aside from the fact that Evan wouldn't have been upset, "Aren't you going to scold him? He hit the guy." Duke speaks, "If he used you for your friendship, he deserved it." Laria says, "Yep, he is the archvillain after all." Duke added, "Anyway, well, I hope you two get along." Laria thought, "What? All of a sudden? What's wrong with you?" Then Duke says, "Evan, Laria said she wants to get along with you. Both you and her should care for each other." Hearing this, Laria began to think, "What is wrong with you, father? So if I don't try to get along with Evan, will he hit me too? Because I'll act differently behind his back? Because I'll be using him for a relationship? If he lays a hand on me, I'll be out for at least 3 months. That can't happen." Then she said, "Yeah, that's right. I was really looking forward to meeting you. Let's hurry and grow up to be a loving couple. I hope we get along, Evan." Evan added, "Well, alright then." Duke said, "Get in, Evan." Evan replied, "Okay." I think Evan's neck is a bit red. Maybe I'm just seeing things. They reached late at night at Palace. Duke said, "It's late. Go on and head in." Hearing this, Laria nodded her head and replied, "Yes, father." Then Duke turned back and says, "Evan, follow me for a sec." Evan saw her Laria and said, "Yes." Laria started coughing. After a moment, seeing Laria, Evan turned back. She started walking slowly, then suddenly ran and reached the acacia tree. Seeing it, she paused and got lost in thought. The acacia fruits. When? I almost didn't get to eat today's share. I can definitely feel myself getting better after eating these. If I keep on like this, in 5 years I'll be cured. This is the best place for me to stay as long as I'm sick, so I have to make sure I can stay here. First, let me think of a plan. Plan A. Live here and secretly start saving up money, then bounce. Goodbye, everyone. It might take a long time, but it's the safest and best bet. Plan B. Stay here no matter what. In which case, I'll convince them that it's better for them to choose me over taking over the palace. If I'm good to them, maybe they'll like me. I'm ready to give them everything, even if each of us has a different reason for being a part of this family. The Duke was like a savior when he said he'd pay back my family's debt at the funeral. It'll be easy if I can just do what the Duke wants. But I have no way of finding out what that is, and Plan B is just too risky. If I'm not good enough to fulfill his ambitions, he might end up killing me. My life is on the line. I have to be cautious. That means I have to go with Plan A. I'll save up money and make a run for it. When she went back inside, and then she opened the door to a room. There were many books scattered on the table. Looking at them, she began to think, why are there books in my room? She moved forward, opened a book, looked it over, and then began to think, do I have to study now that my husband is here? I had it easy up until now. Wait, if only my mother was here. I wish she'd read me stories until I fell asleep. I wish she'd pat my head when I did good things. I wish we'd share delicious food. These aren't books, they're diaries. Why are Evan's things in my room? Then she lay on bed and drifted into deep thought again. There's something wrong here. Yeah, even though he looks mature, he's still a kid, so he's not as heartless as he seems. Even though he looks okay, I'm sure he must get lonely on special occasions. Plus, those are all the things I've ever wanted too. Then suddenly the door opened, and Laria speaks. Lisa? You should knock before you come in. And why are these books in my room? He was Evan. He came inside and asked, why do I have to knock in order to come into my own room? Hearing this, she froze and asked, your room? Evan asked again. Did you think this was your room then? This originally belonged to me. At that moment, she thought, what the? No wonder this room seemed half empty. But I'm not ready to share a room with a guy yet. Even though he's 13, he said, we're married. So we have to share a room, she added. Well, I guess so. He speaks. Oh, and there's one thing I want to discuss beforehand. She smiled and asked, yeah, what is it? Even if we sleep in one bed, I don't want any babies yet. Hearing this, he's shocked and speaks. Huh? What? Babies? A baby? I don't want to make one yet. I think we should both be adults in order to raise babies. Then she thinks, has he gone nuts? He pointed at her and shouted loudly, so, don't you hold my hand in bed. Then he asked, oh, you didn't know? She replied, after you're married, if you hold hands in bed, you have babies. He added, I was startled when I first heard that too, but we can't stay kids forever. At that moment, she began to think, how can he stay so composed while saying something like that? I think I'll be okay sharing a room with Evan. After a while, she smiled and said, okay, let's do that. Evan pushed the chair back, sat on it, and said, I'm glad we agree. Oh, and make sure you wash up before you get in bed, since we're sharing. She smiled in reply. Okay, then she think, I always do. I was just startled today. Evan started studying. She came near him and began thinking again. Is he not going to sleep yet? Wow, that looks super hard. I want to be nice to him. Maybe it's because I saw his diary, since I told him wanted to get along. She smiled and said, you graduated today, and yet you're studying again? Then she placed her hand on his head and said again, you are really diligent. You're younger than me, but that's amazing. The next day at Icardes' estate, Laria passes him the piece of cake and said, have some more of this, Evan. Evan looked at her and said, I don't like sweets. Then Laria began to think, lies. I saw you glance at the cake. But whatever, I'm not gonna ask you twice. She says, well, alright then. At that moment, she picked up a spoon, began eating the cake, and started thinking again. He didn't react much when I patted his head last time. He really is emotionless. Evan was reading the newspaper. She stared at Evan and began thinking. Wait, that article? He asked. What is it? The 500th horse racing competition. This is when the male protagonist, Seymour, appears for the first time in the story. Seymour gets into the horse racing competition and wins a huge sum of money. I need to go there no matter what. There are still 7 years until Evan marries the princess. But I can't lose a good opportunity to earn money. After I save up, I'll leave and pretend to go missing. In that case, Evan can marry the princess. All I have to do is have enough money to live off of for the rest of my life. Suddenly she smiled and asked, do you want to go? He said, you've been staring at this article. Hearing this, she thought, oops. I must have been staring too long. Then she said, yeah, that'd be great. It looks fun. It'd be okay to go, right? He asked. Who'd stop you from going? It's 2 days from now, she asked happily. Really? Then who should I tell? The butler? I need to take a maid with me, right? Can I bet money myself? Would I need an adult? He cleared his throat and replied, Well, I don't have much to do either. Horse racing is a hobby for nobles. So I guess it wouldn't be bad to go watch and study. I don't mind places with a lot of people either, and I know quite a bit about horses too. Hearing this, she began to think, is he saying he wants to come along? Then why isn't he saying so? Maybe he doesn't know how to. The weather's nice, the birds and the flowers. Well, I can still win money even if Evan comes along, she asked. Well then, do you want to come with me, Evan? After a while, she was sitting on the sofa in her room, reading a book, and then suddenly she started thinking. I'll tell the butler we'll be leaving then. You just have to get ready on that day. So I guess I have nothing to prepare? I can't believe he went to the library to study right after that. He just got home from the academy, also reading a book, thanks to Evan. So this is why Laria and Evan never became a friendly couple. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. She said, "Come in." Lisa came in and speaks with a smile. "Hello, Lady Laria." Laria smiled and asked, "Oh, hi Lisa." "What is it?" Lisa replied. "The gift from the Duke has arrived," Laria said. "From father?" "I didn't ask for anything." Suddenly she think, wait a second. Then she opened the gift, and there were many handkerchiefs inside. She think again. "Yep, I thought so," Duke said. "Order about 100 of these luxurious handkerchiefs." She picked up 2 handkerchiefs, and looking at them, she started thinking, I'd rather have received all of this in cash. They look super expensive. I feel pressure to cough up a ton of blood now. But I'm still grateful for the gift. I should write him a thank you note. She speaks. "Lisa, I want to thank father. Can you find me a card?" Lisa reply. "Yes, my lady." Meanwhile, Duke was sitting in his office. Laria went there, knocked on the door, and said, "Father, it's me." "Laria," Duke speaks. "Come in," Laria asked. "You must be busy," Duke replied. "Yes, I am. I need to work more in order to take a day off from my busy schedule." Hearing this, she thought, take off a day? Is he going somewhere? Well, that's the Archvillain's business, not mine. She bowed her head and said, "I received the handkerchiefs you sent. Thank you so much. I'll return the handkerchief you lent me last time." He grabbed his card and asked, "What's this?" She replied, "I wrote a card to express my gratitude." Then he opened it and asked, "What? Did you intend to draw 3 animals?" Hearing this, she thought, "What?" "No," she said. "Oh no. That's you, me, and Evan. Us 3 being happy together. I was just trying to fill in the empty space. I hope he's not mad that it's bad." She turned back, coughing, and said, "Well, I'll get going now." Duke asked, "Is that all you have to say?" She replied, "Yes." Duke asked again, "Really? Did you just happen to forget something?" Hearing this, she thought again, "Is he really mad because of my drawing?" "Oh, well, then," she replied, "I'm sorry. I won't draw them anymore." Duke placed his finger on it and said, "You said this is the 3 of us being happy together. And didn't you also say you wanted to go on an outing together? So I guess you didn't mean what you said." Hearing this, she thought, wait, so when he said he needed to take out a day, that meant. Then she said, "I'm sorry. I was a bit dizzy, so I totally forgot. I had something else to ask you. Evan and I were planning on going to the horse racing competition 2 days from now. We'd love for you to come along too. If you're busy, that's okay too. But you can come, right?" Duke speaks. "I'm not too fond of horse racing. But since you're sick and you want to go," she reply, "Yay. Thank you, father. I'm so excited for our outing together," Duke said. "There's no need to make a fuss about it," she added. "I'm not making a fuss." Then she coughs and starts thinking. What nice timing. She turned back and says, "Oh, I'll get going now." Then she dining again. "Let me leave before he notices that I'm not bleeding as much." Evan is walking in the hall, lost in deep thought. "I don't have much to do either. Stupid, and I know quite a bit about horses too. Dummy, why did I say that? I just should have been honest and told her I wanted to go. I don't know anything about horses. I only know how to ride them. If Laria finds out about this." Evan recalls that Laria said, "You're the one who said you didn't like liars." Evan shout loudly, "You bluffing hypocrite! I never wished to speak to you again." He opens the door, enters the room, and thinks, well, I guess I can't take it back. I'll just have to make my lies true. Basic information and history of horse racing. Types of horses. Understanding horses. Introduction to horse racing. I'll master this all in 2 days. On the day of the race, they are sitting in the carriage. Evan lost in thought. "I stayed up all night studying. Laria said. Hey, look over there, Evan. We're at the racecourse. Then Laria whispered in his ear. Don't worry, Evan, it's not night right now, so it's okay if we hold hands, Evan said. I'm not stupid, I know that too. Then he think, she's too close. When they reached there, people were chatting there. Evan speaks. The Arovo's horse there is a good one. Their legs are longer and stronger, so they're more popular in horse racing. Did you study horses at the academy? And that horse is the most famous one. The original story didn't say anything about Evan knowing a lot about horses. No wonder he really wanted to come today. Hearing this, Laria said to himself, Oh my, Duke Icardes. An old man ran over and said, You arrived earlier than expected. He bowed respectfully and said again, Hello, I receive news of your marriage. My name is Olav Sadar, and I am in charge of today's competition. Seeing this, Laria thought, Wow. Duke Icardes really does have a lot of power. The person in charge came all the way here to greet us. Olav Sadvar speaks. We heard that your family was coming to watch today. We will show you to your seats the best in the house, Evan said while gesturing. Thank you for your consideration. I am Evan Linnaeus Icardes and this is my wife, Laria Rose Icardes. Laria says. Hello, Olav Sadvar added. Oh, you two make a very cute young couple. It's great to see you on a family outing together. Hearing this, she thought, Oh, that's true. It's my first family outing today. I had different intentions, and we're not really close. But I guess we look like a happy family to others. It kinda feels good, Olav Sadvar said. Are you well versed in horse racing? It's more fun if you bet money, even if you're just here to watch, Duke says. Well, I'm not interested in horse racing much. I'm only here because my daughter-in-law wanted to come. Then Olav Sadvar asked, What about you, Lord Evan? At that moment, Evan replied, I guess it'd be best to bet on the Verdo, Arovos, and the collared horses, each of them separately as a treble bet. Hearing this, Olav Sadvar speaks. Oh my, a treble bet? You certainly know a thing or two. Not many people make a treble bet unless they know how to analyze the game. From above, a man dressed in a black cap and coat, silently watching them, his gaze sharp and unwavering. He asked, That girl married the son of Duke Icardes? Aide reply. Yes, sir. She's the daughter of the recently deceased Count and Countess Losstree. Hearing this, he think, interesting. The Count and Countess died suddenly and had nothing to leave their child. But suddenly the Duke decides to take in his wife's friend's daughter. Suddenly, a black cat appeared in front of him. He stroked it lovingly, thought, Duke Icardes would never do that, without something in it for himself. Evan's marriage set off all the threatening powers against the Duke. But it doesn't make sense to use his son's marriage just for that. There must be some other reason. Then he said, I'll have to keep watch, in order to find out what he's up to. I need to know about Laria Rose Icardes. Keep careful watch on that girl, and report everything about her to me. Laria thought, Why did I just get chills up my spine? Evan asked. What's wrong, Laria? She replied. Here is your betting card. Take your betting cards. Then she asked. Evan, can you lend me some money? A man shouted loudly. Take your betting cards. Evan asked. What? You don't have any cash? She replied. Yeah, I want to try betting for fun. If you have some allowance, can you lend me some? I'll pay you back. Hearing this, Duke added, I guess the butler hasn't included your allowance in the budget, because you're not old enough yet. She replied. Yes, of course, you've cared for me enough, so I've been fine, but I don't have any cash. Here. At that moment, Duke took a gold coin from his coat and tossed it toward Laria. When she caught it, she thought, A gold coin? Then Duke said, It's for the picture you drew me. She thought again. I thought he didn't like it. Then she thought. Thank you, father, Evan said. I should talk to the butler about that. Even though she's young, she has our family name now. She should be able to have some money to use, Duke said. I think she's received enough for her picture. If you need money, draw some more. Hearing this, she shocked and thought, Is he saying he'll give me money every time I draw him a picture? Then they went to that man to take the betting cards. He smiled and asked, Hello, will you be betting too, madam? She replied, Oh, yes. Then she reached out his hand and said, I'll bet all of this. Evan speaks. Laria, are you really going to bet a whole gold coin? It's dangerous to bet it all on one horse. She smiled and says, Yeah. I want to. At that moment, Duke asked, Are you being reckless just because it's someone else's money? Well, I guess it's just child's play anyway. Hearing this, she smiled again and began to think, A whole gold coin isn't child's play. Just you wait, father. The race flag was raised there. Then suddenly the flag fell, and the race began. She thinks, we're gonna hit the jackpot today. The male protagonist of the Grand Deal of the Empire, Seymour Gold, Richua. Like his middle name suggests, he was a money maker, but he wasn't always rich. He was just a common man who wanted to be a noble, and was crazy for a title. The first place he gained the money to buy that title was this racetrack. Sorry, Seymour. Let's share the prize today. I need it too. Suddenly, Evan called out, Laria. Laria, she said. Huh. Evan gestured and said, look, the horse you bet on came in first. In a crowd, a man held his own head and said, the black horse came in first? That horse doesn't even have racing experience. Other man added, but I think there's people who bet on it. Then Olav Sadvar came to Laria and speaks. The total prize is 34,012 times the bet. No way. In all the days since this racecourse was built, I've never seen such a large payout. This is an amazing result. And just 2 people bet on this horse. Hearing this, Duke startled and asked, 2? Who's the other person? Olav Sadvar replied, just a commoner. He's 18 years old. Hearing this, she thinks, it's Seymour. Haha, we'll have to share the money. Seymour will be none too pleased. Sorry, not sorry, Olav Sadvar says. This will be all over the news tomorrow. Your name and picture will be in the article too. She smiled and said, oh my. That's so embarrassing. Nice. Olav Sadvar filled out the check and said, for the payout. I'll have to give it to you by check. 34,012 gold. She speaks. Oh wait. Then Laria went near him and said something in his ear. Then he handed over the check and replied, yes, all right. I will do so. She took the check and said, thank you. She turned back and went to them. Evan asked, what did you tell him, Laria? She stretched out her hands and speaks. Here, father, this is all thanks to you. Thank you for the lucky gold coin. I'll give it back to you, so I hope it'll bring you good luck too. Seeing this, Duke smiled, took the coin, put it back in his coat, and says, all right. She smiled and began to think. Did he really just smile? Olav Sadvar speaks. Wow, the young little madam is smart and kind. I heard the Duke picked you to be his daughter-in-law himself. Duke said, the kids' mothers were close friends. He says, it must have been a hard decision to get them married though. You have great decision-making skills, Duke Icardes. Hearing this, she lost in thought. He moved on smoothly to complimenting the Duke. He's good at kissing up. No wonder he's the owner. He asked, are you getting used to life at the estate, Lady Laria? She thought again. But you're not the only one who's good at flattering him. She smiled and replied, of course. Everyone's so good to me. I can ring up some compliments myself. Both father and Evan are so good-looking that it's so nice to be out with them. Let the flattery battle begin. Having my new family be the Icardes dukedom was even luckier than me winning this bet, he replied. That's right. Duke Icardes is the best. He has a great sense of humor, so you'll enjoy every moment with him. Hearing this, she thought again. All right, flattery is nice and all, but you can't make up things like that. Then Duke said, we don't really tell jokes in the dukedom. He speaks. What? Everyone loves your jokes. You're always on a roll with your humor, Duke says. Then you should call me Butter. She thought, on a roll. Butter on a dinner roll. No, that was so bad. As soon as he heard this, he started laughing loudly and said, Butter on a roll. Ha, that was great. Seeing this, Laria began to think, kissing up. Laughing at dad jokes. You win. This is why you can't be arrogant. After a while, Evans speaks calmly. Whatever it is you are, don't do it at the estate, father. She smiled and says, why? I thought it was funny. Father, tell us more jokes at home. I love them. Oh no, I feel a cough coming up. I can't let everyone know I'm sick. I have to hold it in. Then she said, excuse me for a moment. Then she ran and went into a corner. Duke was standing and watching her. Lisa smiled and said, Lady Laria, I heard you won a huge bet. She replied, yes, I got lucky. Lisa speaks. Congratulations. You must be tired from being. I'll help you get settled in. Then Lisa began setting Laria's hair. She said, oh, I think I'll be in the newspaper tomorrow, though it might just be a profile view. But thank you for making me look pretty today. Evan wore a red cravat today, so we must have looked good together. Everyone told us we were quite the dashing young couple. Lisa added, you must have been, since Lord Evan's eyes are red too. I'll ask the butler for a bigger budget. That way, we can get you some more red dresses. Lisa's so talented. She's got a sense of style too. She's worked here since she was young, so she's an expert. Then Lisa asked, but where are you going to use all that money? She thought, but the Duke might have sent her to keep watch on me, so I should be careful. Then she replied, well, I earned it by luck, so I should use it for good things. I was thinking about keeping it and maybe even donating it. Hearing this, Lisa shocked and asked, oh my! Where to? She clenched her fists and asked. You know, to poor and sick orphans, Lisa replied. You're so kind, Lady Laria. Hearing this, she thought, hee. I'm a sick orphan, so it's not a lie, Lisa said. Lady Matilda was a kind person too. She turned her face and says, the late Duchess, right? Lisa replied, yes. She also donated to many places. She was so kind-hearted. She was so lucky that we said she carried luck with her everywhere. She's quite similar to you, Lady Laria. Hearing this, she smiled and asked, really? Then she thinks. I think she's totally different. Lisa smiled and said, if she were alive, she would have adored you. She asked, would she have? Lisa replied, of course. The estate is totally different now that she's gone. Then Lisa turned her face and asked, is Lord Evan inside? She replied, I told him to stay there until I got dressed. At that moment, fear washed over Lisa. Then Lisa speaks, it's just. I shouldn't have said anything about Lady Matilda in front of Lord Evan. Evan was sitting there, absorbed in his studies. She asked, why? Lisa replied, I'll be on my way now. She says, thanks, Lisa. Then Laria moved toward Evan and said, Evan, you're reading again? Wow, that looks hard too. That's amazing for someone who's. He speaks calmly. I read these when I was even younger. It's not that hard. Laria asked. Really? She turned back and said, all right. Then I won't say that it's amazing from now on. He added, that's not what I meant. Suddenly she lost in thought. Cute. Evan's not cold-hearted. He just acts like it. Everyone misses the Duchess, so I'm sure he doesn't have someone to rely on either. At that moment she remembered that when she went to Ecclesia Fruit, she had overheard a maid talking. A maid said, when Lady Matilda was here. Other says, that was nice. The only person who could comfort him, Duke Icardes, left him all alone after his mother's death. So it makes sense that Evan's like this. All right, even though we're not the most friendly couple, I can be nice to Evan. I'm just too soft for sad little kids. Then she grabbed Evan's chair and said, not only reading though. The horse race today. You won 19 times the bet. That's amazing too. She gave a thumbs up and said again, I was just really lucky. But you studied the horses and got a good bet. That's really amazing, Evan. Well, today was a great day though, right? Watching the race together, everyone looking at us. I hope we can go on these outings together more often. Then they began looking toward the moon. The moon gleamed with joy. Early in the morning, when Evan stepped forward to the door, Laria got up and asked, Evan, where are you going? He replied, to the library. She said, oh, okay. That's amazing, even though you're still young. Have fun. Then she coughed. Evan was walking towards the library, lost in thought. She's only a year older than me, but she treats me like a little kid, and despite being 14, she didn't even know how babies are made. Suddenly, a man appeared in front and speaks. Hello, Lord Evan. Evan says, oh, Morande. He smeed and said, good morning, Morande, the Icardes estate's butler. Evan says, nice to see you. I need to ask you a favor, Morande asked. Yes, what is it? Evan asked. Could you order me some more red cravats? Morande, while making notes in his register, asked. Sure. How many? Then he began to think. He's never interested in clothing. How curious, Morande said. In all different shades of red. About 100 of them? Huh. Evan turned back and said, thanks then. Morande think. What's wrong with him? Laria was sitting in the garden, looking at her check. She said to herself, this feels so nice. Peace at heart comes from money. Since I'm here anyway, I want to live. Live life to its fullest, in a nice palace, with a nice chef, living a comfortable life. In order to execute Plan A, I need more money, and it's a problem I can't go around freely. I need to find someone to do things for me. She saw Duke approaching and thought to herself, huh? What's Duke Icardes doing in the garden? All right, this is my chance. Then she walked towards Duke and said, hello, father. Duke asked, what are you doing here? She replied, I was just getting some air, and just doing some thinking. Duke asked, thinking about what? She replied, about the horse race. Duke asked again, did you enjoy the outing that much? She replied, yes. It was lovely to spend time with our family. It was nice to build some memories outside the estate for once. Which reminds me, then she asked, can I go into town tomorrow for a bit? A little while later, Laria was jumping with joy in her room, happily humming a song. Evan saw her and said, you look like you're in a good mood. She lost in thought. Well, yeah. Yesterday I managed to get the Duke to allow me to go into town. She calls that, Duke asked. Into town? Alone? Why? I asked that. Can I tell you when I get back? He was totally suspicious. But I can explain when I return. So proud of myself. Then she asked. Oh, yeah? It's nothing. Evan, are you going to the library again today? Evan opened the tie drawer and replied, no. I'm going to meet the captain of the Royal Guard. I start sword training tomorrow. She smiled and says, already? At your age? He added, I just like using swords. Hearing this, she thought, he's never expressed himself like that before. He must really like swords. Then she leaned toward him and asked, really? Then don't you need to look good for the captain? He replied, yes. Then she put his hand in the cupboard and took out a vest and says, then wear something nicer. She gives him the vest and asks, what about this vest? At that moment, she started thinking, it's so easy to be nice to Evan. It's like reading the answers out of his journal. Having someone choose him an outfit for something important. Look how cute he looks. He doesn't mind. What a cutie. Just then, there was a knock at the door, and someone called out for Lady Laria. She said, oh, that must be Lisa. I'm leaving, Evan. Have fun with the captain, Evan says. Have fun. Very soon, she reached the market. She looked at many dresses and said, whoa, this is really pretty too, right, Lisa? Lisa replied, yes, it really is. The people who have come to help and keep watch on me today are Lisa and 2 guard knights. Lisa asked, are you going to buy them, Lady Laria? She replied, no, I don't think so. Then she lost in thought. We've been going to just about every store for the past 2 hours. Everyone's probably tired and bored by now. I should tell them right now. She smiled and says, then let's go to just one more place before we head back. Lisa asked, really? Is there a place you want to go to? She smiled and replied, yes, there's a really famous place nearby. It's a dessert shop. There was a big rush at the shop. She said, what the? Evan likes sweets, so I really want to buy some. Someone in the crowd speaks. You have to wait at least an hour in line. Then Lisa says, should we tell them we're from the Icardes dukedom? Then maybe we won't have to wait in line. She added, then I'm sure people would get mad at us. I don't want people to talk about the dukedom because of me. Lisa says, I see, she said, yes. It might take some time, but let's wait in line. It's one purchase per person, so you all have to buy one too, okay? The ganache here is apparently really good. She started coughing. Lisa speaks. Oh my! Lady Laria! Are you alright? She replied. I'm alright. I'm going to run to the restroom. Lisa said. I'll come with you. She added. No, you guys have to buy the desserts instead. Evan won't eat it if I only buy one for him. We need at least 3, she thought. Evan said. I don't like sweets. Then she speaks. I need at least 3 so the 3 of us can have tea time together. If even one person doesn't buy cake, we can't have tea time. Are you still going to come with me? Lisa said. But, she shouted loudly, if we don't get to have tea time, we're not going to be the happy family we were at the racecourse. Everything's more important the second time around. Then we'll grow further apart, and our relationship will suffer. And we won't have an heir, and then the Icardes dukedom will cease to exist. Lisa think. What? Laria said. That's what's gonna happen if you follow me and don't buy the desserts. Kite says. But, Lisa added, then hurry back, alright? Laria speaks. Okay. I'll be in front of the store, after I get back. So meet you there, Lisa said. Be careful, Lady Laria. She lost in thought. That was easy as pie. I'm sure that store is around here somewhere. There's no sign, just a creepy horse statue. Oh. There it is. Creepy horse statue? She opened the door and entered, and the shopkeeper asked, what brings you here? She replied, I'm here to see Sven Vestian. The shopkeeper was reading a newspaper. Laria went to him, placed her finger on the newspaper, and said, this person here. Tell him, it's me. Then she thought, Black Horse Syndrome. Who is the winner of the outstanding amount of prize money? After a while she said, then I'm sure he'll want to see me right away. On the other side, Evan opened the door and entered the sword's ground. Captain bowed respectfully and said, Sir Evan, hello, nice to meet you. I am the captain of the Royal Guard of the Icardes Dukedom. My name is Ludvar Decardo, Evan says. Nice to meet you, Ludvar Decardo said. I've heard a lot about you, sir. I heard you ranked first in the youth competition, Evan added. Oh, that was last year, Ludvar Decardo speaks. Well, that's no surprise since you're the heir to the Icardes Dukedom. You must work very hard from now on, Sir Evan. Hearing this, Evan lost in thought. Work hard. Of course I have to work hard as the heir to the dukedom. But that's not what the captain should be telling me to do. I should say something to him. Then Evan shout loudly. Captain Ludvar. Ludvar Decardo speaks. Your mother died because of you. Don't you forget that before you were born. The estate was a bright and warm place. But after the Duchess gave birth, grew weak, and then passed away, the Duke became very miserable. If only Duchess Matilda were still alive. Then he leaned toward Evan. Evan became a little scared. Ludvar Decardo says, It's all your fault, Sir Evan. So that means, you can never be happy, sir, since you're the one who made the Duke as lonely as he is now. Suddenly, Evan thought, I was actually kind of happy when Laria picked out my outfit this morning. But father has no one to pick out his outfits. He always has to eat breakfast alone. Ludvar Decardo said, There's nothing like sword training to get rid of distracting thoughts. You must come here every day before breakfast and train until dinner time. Evan replied, All right. Then he grabbed his shoulder, leaned toward him, and said again, You must become trained enough to help the Duke. That's the only thing you must do. If you have any sense of shame, you will remain focused on this. Sir, you'll have to stay in the Duke's shadows and be as miserable as he is your whole life. The shopkeeper took Laria downstairs and speaks. Come in. Laria saw this and fell into deep thought. Oh wow! Who knew this would be behind the kitchen? Shopkeeper says, He's waiting upstairs. She climbed the stairs, and at the top, a man was sitting right in front of her. She saw him and thought, and that's the head of the Vestian Intelligence Guild. Sven Vestian. Sven Vestian smiled and said, Well, look who it is. I heard you already knew my real name, Lady Laria Rose Icardes. Laria went and sat beside him. He speaks, but still, to introduce myself. When the cat saw the Laria, it ran away and went into her lap. Seeing this, he was surprised. Laria asked, what are you doing? He asked. What? She replied. I don't have much time. I'll get to the point. Take the cat. Cat says, Meow, she said. I need 10 gold back, but I want to do 3 things with the rest of the money. He asked. All right, what can I do? She says. First, I want to purchase a title. So, second, I need to buy a piece of land. He asked. Land? Then she thought. Since I split the prize money with Seymour, I'm going to copy what he's going to do in the future. After a while, she added, Yes. But do everything in secret. As in, the Icardes Dukedom must not know about it, he said. A title, you say? You're much too young, little madam. Aren't you 14? Hearing this, she began to think. Yep, he's not the head of the guild for nothing. He already knows my age, she said while pointing. Make a fake name and identity. And the land I want to buy is Manhwa. I won't have enough to buy all of it, so just purchase half. He picked up a letter and speaks while looking at it. Manhwa is far from the capital and has no real resources, which makes it pretty cheap, and it's for sale. Actually, huge amounts of iron ore are discovered in Manhwa later on. Once found, the land value rises to hundreds of times its original price. Because of me, Seymour only won half the money, so he won't be able to buy the entire property. That also means he won't be able to buy the title of Viscount, so he'll have to start as a baron. She clenched her fist and thought, Sorry, Seymour, but if you're really the main protagonist, you've got to live up to this kind of challenge. He asked, Little madam? Then she thought again. Oops, I got too immersed in my evil role. He speaks. Well, let me first listen to the last request too. What's your third request? She added. Well, that's actually the reason why I came. It's more important than the first 2 requests. My third request is, soon, Duke Icardes, my father-in-law, will find me a family doctor. I want someone on my side to be that doctor. I know he'll find the greatest doctor there is, but I want you to find someone to take that place. This was in the original story too. Duke Icardes assigns a family doctor and keeps watch over my health. Then she speaks. If someone from the Vestian Guild is by my side, it will be easy to continue to seek your services. Sven Vestian said. All right then. If possible, ask for a female doctor. I have the perfect person for that, she says. I don't know if I'd have the choice, but I'll try my best. Sven Vestian added, the fake identity of the person I'll be sending is Serena Moristo. Then you'll be able to tell by the name. Hearing this, she thought, whoa, I was in a rush so I only gave him a rough overview of my request. But he totally gets it. The Vestian Guild in the original book is famous for their secret keeping. Later, when the Duke threatens them about Seymour and the princess, they stay silent in order to protect their clients. She thought again. I thought he was just some crazy cat guy, since he didn't seem to be listening at all. But I'm glad he's shrewd and able to take care of things quickly. And I guess anyone could love their own cat like that. Then she said, all right. Thanks. Sven Vestian smiled and says, it's a huge deal you're offering, so I can't reject it. I'll take care of the check as you requested. Sven signed the check and handed the check over to Laria and said, here you go. When Laria saw 100 gold written on the check, she began to think. I only asked for 10 gold back. Sven says, I know. The rest is because I want to make a deal with you, Lady Laria. Laria asked. With me? What do you want from me? Suddenly, the cat started saying meow meow. Sven asked, what else would the head of an information guild want? Then he smiled and responded on her own. Information? Laria replied, I don't know anything about the dukedom. Then she asked, what would father trust to tell me? Sven replied, oh no, not about the Icardes dukedom. Laria rose Icardes. I want information about you, my lady. Hearing this, Laria pointed to herself and asked, information about me. Then she lost in thought. I could make things up and lie to him. But if I want to keep making deals, I have to reveal some information about myself. But Sven has no idea. So that means, she said, all right. She thought again. This deal is a test. At that moment, she placed the check on the table and said, but I won't sell it for money. Seeing this, Sven shocked. She speaks. For giving my information. I also want some information in return. Let's both exchange one question and one answer each. Sven asked. All right. What do you want to know, Lady Laria? Hearing this, she lost in thought. Since I'm in this body right now, I want to know about something that's not in the book, she said. I want to know about the late Duchess. I heard the Duke has quite the backstory, but I didn't read the epilogue. He asked, you mean Duchess Matilda Larissa Icardes? Then he said, just like you, she married the Duke through an arranged marriage at a young age. But because she was a warm and happy person, the two were very close. Hearing this, she shocked and asked, really? At that moment, she thought, the Duke was close to someone? That's hard to imagine. He added, she was such a lovely person. She was so kind and nice that everyone loved her, and she especially loved the Duke's humor. So the estate was always filled with laughter. She says, oh, his jokes, huh? Then she recalls that Duke said, then you should call me Butter. On a roll, she thought. She liked his humor. Yep, it was true love. Really, even more than Levi and Seymour. He added, at that time, Duke Icardes did as little work as possible in order to spend time with his wife. Hearing this, she startled and think, he's such a cold workaholic. But he used to be like that. That's kind of sad. After a while, he said, and from what I've heard, he was very clingy, and nervous when she wasn't around, and needed to always see her, and wanted to always be with her, and hated her being with other men. She asked, other men. There was a time when the Duchess went to town with the assistant captain of the Royal Guard, and I heard the Duke flipped out for a couple of days. She says, oh, I see. Wait, so if he was the assistant captain at that time, he said, yes, he's the current captain of the Royal Guard. He's called Ludvar in blue, since he always wears his blue uniform. Everyone hates the blue uniform of the Royal Guard, so no one really wears it, but one might wonder why he has such a strange sense of fashion. On the other side, Evan was completely exhausted from sword training. Well, it said it's because Duchess Matilda's eyes were blue, but we'll never know for sure, Laria said. Ludvar in blue. Well, a lot of people loved Lady Matilda, so it's understandable. I see, he says. She was always weak, but she got worse after having Lord Evan. Laria asked. Oh, so she was always frail? He replied. Yes. That's why the Duke was nervous when she was pregnant. And in the end, she ended up passing away like that. Hearing this, she thought, Evan would be so sad if he heard this. She recalls that maid said, when Lady Matilda was here. Other maid says, it was so nice then. Or maybe he'd already know this much. He speaks. You must also be careful, Lady Laria, she asked. Huh? Why? He replied, because Lord Evan is exactly like the Duke. Hearing this, she thought, really? Well, they certainly do look alike, he asked. Did that help answer your question? She replied. Yes, sort of, he added. Now, Lady Laria, you have to answer one of my questions, she said. All right. Asked me? He asked again. What do you think of Duke Icardes? Hearing this, she thought, he's such a great person, I could pretend to not know anything and tell him that. But he's a talented person, so I need to keep him on my side, aside from the money. Let's be smart about this, then she said. I think eventually, he could possibly control the palace. He has the potential. She think again. I guess that was a satisfying answer. The guards and Lisa were standing with chocolate. Then Laria came and asked, Did you buy them? Lisa replied. Yes, we each bought one, Laria said. Wow, thanks. Here you go. She hands them the bouquets of flowers. Then Laria said, Thanks for waiting in that long line. This is for you guys. They were surprised to see this. Seeing them surprised, Laria asked, What's wrong? Do you not like flowers? Lisa replied. No. That's not it. Thank you, Lady Laria. But what's that? She smiled and said, Oh, this? It's a secret. In the Imperial Palace, the Duke is sitting in his office, looking at a paper. He suddenly leans back in his chair and slips into deep thought. So taking Laria in as Evan's wife took care of some pressing issues. Then he puts the paper on the table and says to himself, Then I guess Duke Orlando won't be suspecting us for the time being. Suddenly, he stood up and began to think again. It's too early to stand up to him right now. Everyone's watching as I start to gain power, so I need to be very careful. Then he went to a table where a chessboard was set up, picked up a pawn, and, lost in thought, began moving it. I have to gain control over the palace, which means I must get a hold of Princess Alani. As long as Laria is married to Evan, I'll keep growing in power, and when I secretly get rid of my enemies, I'll have Princess Alani become Evan's second wife. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I guess Laria really is terminally ill. I asked Lisa to keep watch on her, and she's been coughing up blood, and I've seen her do that in person too. Then he recalls that Laria said, Excuse me for a moment, she probably ran off so she wouldn't make a scene. How wise of her, and she even recognized my sense of humor. Laria smiled and said, Father, tell us more jokes at home. Now that I think about it, that was the first time I joked about something since Matilda passed. No, I need to stop. I only brought her here so she could die off quietly. Also, it bugs me that she won that huge portion of prize money at the racecourse. It won't hurt to stay on guard. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Duke said, Come in. Laria asked. Father, are you busy? Duke replied. No, I'm not. Then she came in with Lisa and asked, Then, would you like a cup of tea? Duke replied. Sure. She speaks. I bought a ganache cake from a famous store in town. Lisa and the guards stood in line forever to get this. It looks really good, right? It would have been nice if Evan could join us. But he hasn't come back from training yet. He really likes sweets though. Duke took a spoon and began to think. It is good. Then he asked, Did you go to town for this? She smiled and replied, I did want to have family tea time, but I also wanted to give you this. At that moment, she handed over a book and said, I was lucky and earned a lot of money, so I wanted to go to town to buy gifts for our family, the birth of a family. Evan really likes books, and it seemed like you like books too. Duke was watching him. Then she smiled and says, This is a new release. Apparently it's really popular. I was super lucky and grabbed the last one, he added. I'm sure it's not the last book there is. She speaks. Oh. Right. Of course, it's just the last one on the shelf. You're totally right, Father. I'll get going now. Duke was looking at him very intently. Then he said, Bring Lisa in. Lisa said, Lady Laria went around town today. All she did was look at some dresses and accessories, but she ended up buying nothing for herself. Tapping her finger on the table, Duke speaks. Is that so? Then she insisted that she must buy some ganache cake for tea time with you and Lord Evan, since Lord Evan likes sweets, Lisa added. And when we went to go buy the sweets, she came back holding a package from the bookstore. That's all, Duke says. All right, you may go, Lisa said. Yes, Your Grace. Oh, Your Grace, didn't you ask for a family doctor for Lady Laria? Should we start looking for one? Duke added. Yes, begin the search, Lisa says. Yes, Your Grace, Duke said. Go and buy everything that Laria was looking at today, Lisa speaks. I'm sorry, Duke asked. How could she not buy anything, when she's from the Icardes dukedom? Then he sat down and said, That would make us look bad. Buy some other similar styles as you do so. Hearing this, Lisa nodded her head and says, "Oh, yes, I will do that, Your Grace." After that, Duke pulled out Laria's painting and looked at it. Meanwhile, Laria was in her room. She says, "I'm so tired." Then she lies down on the bed and starts thinking. "I spent the whole day in town today, and it was exhausting trying to sneak some ecclesia fruits behind Lisa's back. I'm gonna fall asleep like this." Suddenly, Evan opened the door, and Laria asked, "Oh, Evan, did you just get home? Why are you so late?" Evan asked. "Did you wait for me?" She replied. "What? Of course, how can I sleep when you're not home yet? If I'm going to lie, let's make it seem real." She asked again, "How was training? Did you train all day?" His shoes were very dirty, he said. "From now on, don't wait for me. I'm going to be late. I won't be able to join you for breakfast either." She asked. "Oh, really? Then are you going to leave early in the morning?" Then she thought, "Wow, it's like he's going to become the greatest knight. There aren't any wars, so what's the point of training so hard?" Then she said, "Okay, alright." She thought again, "I guess we won't be able to see each other much. I wanted to get along with Evan, that's too bad." When Evan came back after freshening up, he saw a piece of cake on the table and asked about it. "What's this?" She replied it while rubbing her eyes. "Oh, it's a ganache cake. I bought it in town for you, since you like sweets. Or, I mean, you eat a lot of them. I sent Lisa to ask you to come for tea time, but she said you didn't want to. Aren't you hungry from training all day? Have it before you sleep. It's really good. I had mine with Father earlier." Then she thought, though he started cracking a weird joke again, and I ran away coughing. "It was really good. We waited in line for an hour to buy that." She says, "It was really good. We waited in line for an hour to buy that." Then she thought again, "Ha, this body is just so weak. I can't believe I'm this tired just because I went to town. I have to tell him there's a gift on the table too." Evan saw a book and asked, "Laria, what's this?" Evan took out a card from it, opened it, and began to read. "Evan, did you enjoy today's class? You know I earned a lot of prize money from the horse race, so I went to town today, because I wanted to buy a gift for our family. You seem to like books, so I went to the bookstore to buy one for you. But you always read difficult books, so I picked an easy one. It's a picture book. It's really pretty, isn't it? Later, I'll read it to you until you fall asleep." From Laria. She got up and started thinking. "I fell asleep. What time is it? What's wrong with him? He's reading my card? At this hour? Evan, did you enjoy today's class? Today was my lucky day. I bought a gift for the family. But you only read books too difficult. I chose you." She think again. Evan doesn't look so well, but all that's changed is that he started sword training. She recalls that Evan said, "I start sword training tomorrow." Did something happen during training today? In the early morning, Laria is sitting in her room, lost in thought. Evan didn't look so well last night. I'm pretty sure something happened. Suddenly a sound came. "Lady Laria, may I come in?" Laria asked. "Oh, hi Lisa. What is it?" Lisa replied. "The Duke told us to buy everything you looked at yesterday." Hearing this, Laria shocked and asked, "What?" Lisa speaks. "But we need to buy them in your size, so we must measure you before we go to town and order everything." Laria asked, "Why is Father giving me all these gifts?" Then Lisa started measuring it and says, "He said not buying anything makes the Icardes dukedom look bad." Laria began to think, "I should have looked at more expensive things, and so Lisa really was keeping watch on me. Or the Duke wouldn't know that I was looking at stuff in town." Then Laria smiled and said, "Oh my, Father is just too kind. I've never received gifts like these. I'm so touched. When everything comes in, I'm going to pick my favorites and go say thank you. I want to say thank you, every single day." Then Lisa speaks, "Oh my. I actually told him that you bought gifts for the family, and nothing for yourself. I think he was really touched by that." Hearing this, Laria lost in thought. "Nice move, Lisa, I see, but I really am touched. I guess expensive things help thaw a frozen heart. Money, everything for me. Gifts given in return are given from the heart. Maybe my acting has really opened the Duke's heart. Yeah, he's a great archvillain, so he could take over the palace in a different way. I don't know why he's trying to take over the palace, but if I help him get what he wants, maybe Plan B might be possible." After a while, Lisa said, "Oh, and Lady Laria, the Duke wants to assign a family doctor for you. He seems worried about your illness. We're already looking for someone. When we hire them, that person will come to look at you every day." Hearing this, Laria smiled and asked, "Oh, really? Then she thought again. So Duke Icardes is going with his original plan. Maybe these gifts are just because he doesn't want to feel sorry later on. Or because I'm going to die anyway and he feels bad. Then she smiled again and sighed. That's really great and all, but can you ask for a female doctor? I don't think I'd be comfortable with a man, Lisa says. I will let him know. Laria speaks. Please do. I'm kind of scared of male adults, except father, Lisa added. Oh, isn't it normally the opposite? Most people find the Duke intimidating, Laria said. He's handsome, so it's okay. Then she think. Yep, tell him everything you just heard, Lisa. 3 days later, Laria was standing by the window, looking outside, lost in thought. Evan has been going to training every single day, so we haven't been able to talk much. I'm going to ask him tonight, no matter what. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and Laria said, Come in. A girl came inside and said, Hello? I'm Serena Moristo. I will be your doctor, and will be checking you every day from now on. Hearing this, Laria think, Serena Moristo. Then she recalls that Sven said, the fake identity of the person I'll be sending is Serena Moristo. Then, I'll be able to tell by the name. Wow, Sven, you're good. Serena Moristo smiled and says, Our head has specially requested. Since it's a huge deal, he asked me to treat you well. Laria think again. Well, duh. I spent a ton of money on this deal. Then she asked, Are you a real doctor? She smiled and replied, Nope. I know nothing about medicine. I read a few introductory books on it though. Laria asked. Then how'd you pass the interview? Serena Moristo grabbed a book, opened it, and began speaking. Well, the Duke knows nothing about medicine either. I passed the interview using my graduation certificate, medical licenses, and letters of recommendation, Laria said. Oh my. Then she closed the book and says, And they're all fake, of course. Laria speaks. Is that all right? She said. It's not common for our head to personally step up like this. He must have been pleased with you. Hearing this, Laria thought. More like, he must have been pleased with my last answer. He's probably curious about the Duke, and he wants to use me to find out more. She says, So, what should I do, Lady Laria? Laria added, The Duke will be asking about my condition. She said, Yes, and in my contract, it says I'm not allowed to tell anyone about your illness, and that I shouldn't tell you about your condition, but instead should report directly to the Duke. Laria began to think, just as I expected. I shouldn't open up to Duke Icardes that easily. She speaks. Oh, he asked me to look at your condition right now too. Then Laria said, That's probably your final interview stage. Tell him I have a rare disease called the Garba lung disease, and that I'm going to die from complications in 6 to 7 years. She's shocked and asked, What? Laria replied, Tell him it's going to be hard, but you'll try your best, and that it's going to be a tough road. She asked, Is it okay to tell him a lie like that? Laria turned back and replied, He won't be surprised. And tell me how he reacts to that. She added, But are you really sick? If you are, you wouldn't have bought that land and title in a different name. Laria said, I am, but I'll get better soon. So don't be alarmed if I cough up blood sometimes. She asked, So I really don't need to do anything here? Laria replied, Well, yes. She asked, Yeah? Then, can I ask you a favor? It's really important. Laria asked, A favor? What is it? I can't help you if it's something big. She speaks. Well, would you mind if I date while I'm here? I saw a number of good-looking workers around here. Dating is a hobby of mine, you see. The dukedom sure has a lot of cute guys. Hearing this, Laria shocked and said, Well, you're free to do as you wish. Let me know if there are any guys you're interested in too. I'll help you meet up with them secretly. Then she sat beside Laria and said, My actual area of expertise is not medicine, but rather secret love affairs. Laria added, But I'm married, she says, but it's an arranged marriage. All young couples who marry like that end up cheating on each other. Almost all the talk in high society revolves around such topics. Hearing this, she lost in thought. Yeah, I guess the original story involves infidelity too. What a terrible story. What was the author thinking? The Grand Deal of the Empire, by Devil Cat. Well, since the law doesn't allow married couples to divorce, I suppose it's inevitable. This is a world where parents marry off their children as they please. The concept of cheating may be entirely different from my sensibilities. Then she held Laria's hand and said, Let me know if you ever want advice about men. I'm a professional when it comes to love. At that moment, Laria thought, Sven, are you sure she's the right person for the job? Then Laria says, Serena, I need you to tell Sven something for me, Serena asked. What is it? Laria thinks. I have to say it as if it's nothing important. Then Laria said, when I was in town, something smelled like it was burning behind the coffee shop. Serena asked. Huh? Something was burning? Behind the coffee shop? Laria replied. Yes. Please tell Sven to look into it. I'm just worried that something bad might happen. It may turn out to be a false alarm, but it can't hurt to be cautious. Every connection I have is precious to me, since I'm not free to move around as I please. So both you and Sven are very dear to me. Sven's mother was living in the building behind the Intelligence Guild's coffee shop. And in the basement of that very building, a magician who was crazy about experiments had recently moved in. In the original story, the whole building was blown up because of the magician, and Sven, who lost his mother in that incident, fell into a slump. Because of this, Seymour had a difficult time trying to buy land through Sven. But now, Seymour will be able to buy that land easily. This will benefit Seymour too. Sven will soon think of me as his benefactor. When Serena returned, Sven asked, Serena, you're back. How was she? She says, she's just adorable. But she asked me to lie to Duke Icardes and tell him that she has a disease and will die at age 20. Duke Icardes didn't seem surprised by that though. Well, I suppose he must have known she was sick. He wouldn't have hired a private doctor otherwise. Hearing this, Sven thought, as expected. She's not an empty-headed little madam. Sven recalls that, she said, he could possibly control the palace. He has the potential. She probably thinks the Duke is going to betray her. She's pretending that she's about to die so she can run away. Incredible, for someone so young. Then he says, we'll need to keep careful watch. Serena asked. What do you mean by that? He replied. Perhaps even our master. Serena shouted loudly. What? He speaks. Master Neo responded to her. Serena asked. Master Neo did? He replied. Yes. She asked again. Really? He replies. He sat on her lap and meowed twice. She speaks. A noble that Master Neo responded to. He says, we must watch her carefully. She asked. But isn't she still too young? He replies. 10 years isn't that long for us. She formed a glowing orb on her palm using magic and said, right. It'll be hard to find someone else who can fulfill these conditions. If even Master Neo, the devil, has responded. We've never met a noble who's on the same wavelength as the devil. He says, right. Master Neo is only here in the human realm for a while. She was born with strong analytical skills, and the ability to visualize and manage long-term possibilities. But we need to see if she has the guts to actually bet on the game. She said, I'll stay by her side and keep watching her. He added, that's why I put you there. She says, but Lady Laria, seems like she's going to make a run for it, right? He speaks firmly. She bought a fake name, some land, and is faking an illness. So yes, it seems like she's going to. Then naturally, she's going to break up with Lord Evan, right? Then she clapped and said, I guess? Oh, thank goodness. Then she'll have the opportunity to date other guys too, he asked. Don't do anything stupid. What do you mean, other guys? She replied. Oh, that reminds me. Something strange happened here too, he added. A commoner came to find me, saying he earned some money from the Black Horse. She says, he said he wanted to buy a title and the land of Manhua with that money. He didn't have enough though, so he could only buy the remaining land that Lady Laria didn't buy. Then she asked, is he handsome? He replied, he was pretty good looking. She said, but that is weird. The two people who hit the jackpot on the same race came to the same place for the same purpose. Could he be Lady Laria's stalker? He speaks. Maybe. That's most probable. But we'll have to see. Tell this to Lady Laria, and let's see how she reacts. She turned back and says, all right, I'll be the judge of that. I wonder if she's really the person you've been desperately waiting for. She ate her ecclesia fruits and then started thinking. I don't know when Evan will be back from his training, so I should take my time finishing today's portion of ecclesia fruits. Suddenly, the door opened, and Evan entered. She said, Evan, he asked, you're still awake? She replied, yeah. I was waiting for you, he said. Why waste your time? I told you to just go to sleep first. I'm going to wash up, so go to bed. Hearing this, she thought, that's how he's gonna be, huh? But, then Lisa came and asked, how can I help you, Lady Laria? She asked. Can you get us some Darjeeling tea? Lisa replied. Yes, my lady. I'll prepare it right away. She says, thanks, Lisa. Make it strong enough to wake us up. Then she smiled and thought, this time, I'll do whatever it takes to find out. What's going on with Evan? When Evan came back after freshening up, he saw Laria sitting and asked her, "You're still not asleep?" She smiled and reapplied, "Yeah, I'm not sleepy today." He asked, "Really?" She's shocked and thought, "Ha, it's summer, but he's still wearing long sleeves," he says, "then I'll head to bed first." Hearing this, she thought again, something's not right. She was holding a book, then she spoke excitedly. "Evan, do you want me to read you a story until you fall asleep? I said I'd read you a story in my letter. Today seems like the perfect day to do it." Then she thinks, why is he making that face? Is this something to get so conflicted about? As expected, he wants me to read to him. But he's pretending otherwise. How cute. Well, there's no helping it then. She asked, "What's wrong? You don't want me to read to you?" He replied, "It's fine. You don't have to. And don't buy stuff like this next time." Hearing this, she think, why so serious? Unlike what his cold words suggest, this book looks like it's already been read a lot. I'm sure he's read it countless times, while I was asleep. "Poor kid," he said, "you don't have to wait up for me anymore. Just go to sleep first." She grabbed his arm and says, "Come on, let's read it together. That's the reason I bought it, in the first place." He got scared and stepped back a little. Then she asked, "Evan, what's wrong?" She grabbed his arm again and says, "Stay still," he shouted loudly. Laria, when she pulled back his sleeve, she saw that his arm was injured. Then she asked, "What is all this?" He replied, "Don't worry about it." She speaks, "How can I not worry about it? I'm your wife. I'm your closest family." He asked, "Family?" she asked. "This? Who did this?" When he picked up her shirt and looked at it, she started thinking, I knew it. He's only wounded in the places that are covered by his clothes. Someone is hitting him on purpose. Then she asked, "What is all this? Who did this?" He replied, "This is something that happens to everyone during training. You don't have to fuss about it. It's no big deal." She shouted loudly. Then he said, "And you don't have to read me the story. I'm not a kid." Hearing this, she lost in thought. I can't believe someone who thinks babies are made by holding hands in your sleep is saying that. If I keep pressing him now, he's not going to say anything. All right, let's think of a new strategy. She speaks, "Okay, I just wanted to make you happy." She suddenly started crying. He says, "I'm sorry." Then she thought, oh boy, I was prepared to fully commit to acting all pitiful and everything. But he apologized right away. "I can't help it. I'm too soft for Evan. I don't have to butt into his business. But I need to know what's going on. This time, I'll look into it." Without Evan's knowledge, the next morning, Laria was sitting with Serena, having tea. Serena said, "What's wrong? You look down today." Laria speaks, "Oh, it's nothing. I just haven't been getting much sleep lately." Then she lost in thought. "It's been 2 days since that incident. When I stopped prodding him, Evan let down his guard and didn't say anything else. But I've started wrapping my arms around him when he's asleep, pretending it's an unconscious act. Since he can't do anything about it, he would just sigh and go back to sleep. Evan's really careful when he sleeps. He usually wears long sleeves to cover the injuries. Every time, there were new bruises and marks, but only in the places that would be covered by his clothes." How sly. "I'm positive someone is secretly abusing him on purpose. At first, I suspected Duke Icardes, but when I saw a new wound on Evan's body on a day when the Duke was off the estate, I knew it was someone else. That means this definitely has something to do with his sword training. I don't have the authority to get someone to look into this for me, and if I take things too far, the Duke might suspect me." Then she continued thinking while taking a sip of tea. All he wants is a dim-witted daughter-in-law who will die without a fuss when he needs her to. "Oh, that reminds me." After a while, Laria asked, "Serena, have you told the Duke about my condition?" Serena replied, "Yes, I informed him exactly as you said, but he didn't have much of a reaction." Laria asked, "Really?" Then she thought again. "I thought he'd tell her not to bother treating me." Serena replied, "Oh, that's right. There's something I have to give to you." Then Serena took out a box and said, "Sven says that he owes you a great debt." Laria asked, "What do you mean?" Serena replied, "Sven's mother was living in the building you talked about, and it turns out the crazy mage who had moved into the basement had been carrying out illegal experiments." Hearing this, Laria shocked and says, "Oh my! Really?" Pretending not to know, Serena speaks, "He might have blown up the whole building if he'd been left unchecked." "Anyway, Sven thanks you for helping him to save his mother," Laria said. "I'm glad things turned out all right." Laria looked at the box and thought, I want to hurry and open it. Serena opened the box and said, he hopes you will accept this. Seeing this, she's shocked and says, oh my! Of course I'll accept it, Serena added. Ha ha! I knew you'd like it, Lady Laria. There's someone who's been copying you these days, Laria said. Huh, Serena speaks. He's a commoner named Seymour Ritua, and he's the one who split the reward money from the Black Horse with you. Hearing this, Laria thought, it's actually me that's copying Seymour. Then she asked, oh really? Serena said, he wants to buy the title of Baron and the rest of Hanua's land with his money. Then she thought, I guess this situation looks strange to everyone, Serena says. It's a bit suspicious. He's definitely a skilled stalker of yours, don't you think? Laria smiled and said, oh no way. Then she thought, if I'd acted any later, I would have been suspected as Seymour's stalker instead. I always have to be one step ahead of the game. Sorry, Seymour. But a girl's gotta live. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and a voice was heard. Lady Laria, it's Lisa, Laria says. Yes, come in. Huh! When she entered, 2 guards came in with her, carrying some boxes. Laria saw it and began to think, are those boxes what I think they are? Then she said, are those the gifts you mentioned before? Yes. The clothes have all been tailored, so we brought them here, she asked. Wow. Huh! Is it just me, or are there more clothes than before? Lisa replied. The Duke told us to buy a couple more of each design. Laria thought, ha! I should have picked more expensive things. Looking at the dresses, Serena said, oh my! There are so many, Lisa speaks. You must be the new family doctor. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Lady Laria's maid, Lisa Aloyna, Serena says. Hello, I'm Serena Moristo. Lady Laria, that hairpin looks a bit too old-fashioned for you. What about this instead? Hearing this, Laria thought, but Lisa picked that out for me when we went downtown together. Then Lisa says, that looks so good on you. Laria smiled and asked, really? Lisa smiled and says, it's not old-fashioned. It's mature. It looks very good on Lady Laria. Serena smiled and speaks, nah, this one's better. That's totally out of style. Then Lisa smiled again and said, excuse me? I've been with Lady Laria longer. Wouldn't I know better? Serena says, oh my. How is that relevant to having a sense of fashion? Lisa asked. Would a doctor have a better eye for these things than a personal maid? Serena replied, I'd argue so, since my job is to care for Lady Laria, and her alone. Hearing this, Lisa shocked and speaks. What? You can't just come in out of nowhere and butt into my business, Serena added. I'm sorry, but just because you were with her for longer doesn't mean you guys are closer. Laria thought, let's just go pick out some dresses. Then she went to the guards and speaks. Oh, by the way, I want to try exercising to help me gain strength, Laria asked. Would taking sword lessons help with that? She asked. Sword lessons? He asked. You mean for yourself, my lady? Laria replied, yes. Serena said a little exercise would be good for me. Behind her, Serena and Lisa were arguing. Serena said, this dress is cuter, Lisa says. No, this one is, he speaks. Oh, I see, Laria added. But you end up with a lot of scars and bruises from training, right? That won't look good when I wear my dresses, he asked. What do you mean, scars and bruises? She smiled and said, oh, that won't happen. He raised his hand and says, it's just training, so no one gets hurt. You might suffer from some muscle ache, but that's the extent of it, Laria said. I knew it. But, he added, but I don't know if you're strong enough to even lift a sword right now, Laria says. Yeah, I'll think about it. I just felt like asking, that's all. Then she began to think. I don't actually intend to learn anyway. Then she said again, you know, Evan's been taking sword training lately, and I was wondering if it'd be possible for us to learn together. They smiled and speaks. Oh, that's nice, my lady, he says, but I think it'll be difficult for you to learn with him. She said, yes, since Sir Evan is rather skilled, and he's in the process of receiving individual lessons from the captain right now. Laria added, the captain of the Royal Guard? She replied, yes. Since Sir Evan is the Duke's heir, the captain is hired for people doing his best to train him, Laria said. Oh my. How nice of him. Then she thought, so the person that beat up my husband is for sure the leader of the knight's troop. Laria said again, oh my, how nice of him. I can't believe the captain is taking time to train Evan himself. She began to think. Wait. I think I've heard about the captain before. Then she recalls that I asked that. Other men? Sven replied. There was a time when the Duchess went to town with the assistant captain of the Royal Guard. And I heard the Duke flipped out for a couple of days. I said that. Wait, so if he was the assistant captain at that time? Sven says. Yes. He's the current captain of the Royal Guard. He's called Ludvar in blue, since he always wears his blue uniform. She thinks. Ludvar in blue. Then she smiled and asked, was the captain's name Sven? He replied, no. His name is Ludvar Ricardo. He used to be the assistant captain, but became the captain 5 years ago, Laria says. Oh, I see. Then Laria clapped her hands and said, if Evan's taking private lessons, I'm guessing he'll be in the back garden. That's where they were held, at the Losstree estate. She added, oh, actually, the lessons are held behind the rose garden. Laria speaks. I should avoid that area then. They wouldn't like having a beginner watching them. Serena looked at Laria and began to think. Lady Laria's pretty good. She's giving them the wrong information, so they'll naturally reveal what she wants to know without arousing suspicion. After a while, Lisa shouted loudly. That color doesn't look good on her. Brighter colors suit Lady Laria more. Serena continued thinking. The human instinct to correct someone else's mistake is often stronger than the desire to tell them what they don't know. Laria said goodbye to them. Serena thinks again. We can expect much from her, Lisa asked. Hey, are you listening? After sending them off, Laria went over to Lisa and said, by the way, Lisa. Lisa replied. Yes, Laria asked. I noticed that no one really goes near the rose garden. Did something happen there? Lisa replied. Lady Matilda took care of the rose garden herself. She loved flowers, Laria asked. Really? Lisa replied. That's why, when you bought us flowers in town, we were all reminded of Lady Matilda for a moment. Hearing this, Laria thought, that was because I felt bad for making you guys wait in line for an hour. No wonder you all looked so stunned. Even that small act reminded them of her. Everyone must have really loved Lady Matilda. Lisa speaks. His Grace doesn't go near the rose garden either. It must hurt him too. That's why the rest of us don't really go there as well. Then Laria coughed and said, I see, thanks for letting me. Lisa says, oh my. Then she asked, you've been coughing frequently even as of late. Are you still unwell? Laria replied, a little. Then she thought, I should cough more in front of Lisa. At that moment, Serena speaks. This one's the prettiest, Lady Laria. The buttons are trendy. Lisa asked. Excuse me, doctor? Could you please pay more attention to your patient instead? Serena smiled and replied, I'm very much interested in clothes too, so. Lisa shouted loudly, is this woman for real? Hearing this, Laria began to think, there they go again. Then she said, anyway, I should change into one of these. I'll have to go thank Father, Lisa says. Oh. I'll pick one out for you. On the other side, Evan was engaged in sword training with Ludvar. He struck at Ludvar with enthusiasm, but Ludvar pushed him back with his leg. At that moment, Ludvar lost in thought. I heard he showed talent for the sword while he was at the academy. He is pretty good. He's at the same level as his father when he was young. I might have lost if I hadn't been wielding a real sword. I don't like him. He doesn't look anything like Matilda, and he's as stubborn as his father. Ludvar said, get up. You should be able to endure this much pain. Evan glares at him angrily. Ludvar said again, after Lady Matilda's passing, so many people have had to live in pain. You don't deserve to be happy. Evan trembled. Ludvar says, think about your father. Hearing this, Evan clenched his fist. Then Ludvar began to think, you took Matilda from me. I'll ruin you with my own hands, starting with your childhood. Ludvar slammed his sword on the ground and speaks. Again, Evan stood up and picked up his sword. His hands were trembling. Then Evan began to think, yes, Ludvar is right. Nobody can say it to me directly, but they're all thinking the same thing. The estate feels like a different place. Now that she's gone, I had my suspicions, but now I'm certain I am the cause of all this misery. Someone like me doesn't belong with Laria. If she stays with me, she will only be miserable. Evan fell after being defeated again. Then he think, Laria. Duke sits in his office. He picked up a document from his desk, studied it carefully, and then began writing important information onto another sheet of paper. Then he asked, Morande, is this all the information we have on Princess Ilani so far? Morande replied, yes, Your Grace. Like you predicted, she isn't stepping up at the moment, but she's slowly gaining power within the palace. Hearing this, Duke lost in thought. She probably can't do much because the Emperor is still young. However, she will soon take control of the palace. And that's why Evan must marry Princess Ilani. Then Duke said, "All right, you are dismissed." Lorande bowed and replied, "Yes, Your Grace." Then the Duke leaned back in his chair, took a long breath, closed his eyes, and suddenly found himself walking through a jungle. He heard a sound. Someone speaks. "Matilda, I'm so tired and heartbroken." Startled, he stopped in his tracks and quickly hid behind a tree. Peering out, he saw a girl sitting there and began to think, "Who is that? Oh, it's Matilda's friend, Countess Losstree, if my memory serves me right. She speaks. My bastard of a husband is going around seeing other women. My son has been sent away for opposing him. And you, my best friend, passed away at such a young age. But somehow, I received even worse news today. Maybe my daughter, Laria, is sick. She's going to die. She has Garba lung disease. She will only live until her early 20s at best." I was so shocked that I couldn't tell anyone. What am I going to do about my poor daughter? My heart breaks every time she coughs up blood. At that moment, Duke began to think. After that day, Countess Losstree and her husband died in a carriage accident. As soon as I heard the news, I took Laria in and married her to Evan. She had nowhere to go. Instead of dying pitifully under the roof of a relative, I thought this place would be better for her. I judged that she would be the perfect cover, someone who would die exactly when I needed her to. Opened her eyes and he was in a room. He sat there for a moment, lost in thought. But why do I feel so bad? Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and a voice called out, "Father, it's me, Laria," he said. "Come in." Laria came inside, her face lighting up with joy, and she speaks happily. "Thank you for the gifts, Father! This dress, hairpiece, and necklace are all gifts from you." Hearing this, Duke thought, "She's like a little squirrel. She's smaller than kids her age. Perhaps it's because of her illness?" she said. "And so, I prepared a gift for you too." Then she placed a paper on the table and says, "It's nothing great, but I want you to have it." Duke picked it up, opened it, and fell into thought. It's another family drawing, or at least, a family of 3 blobs. Then he asked, "Is this me?" She replied, "No, that's Evan." He asked again, "Oh, is this me then?" She replied, "No, that's me." "You got them all wrong. But still, I drew it because I thought you'd appreciate it. Come to think of it, the 3 of us haven't spent much time together since going to the race course," he says. "I don't usually go out of my way to spend time with Evan," she said, "but we're family. We should get along." He stood up and speaks. "We're so used to being alone that we don't feel the need to do so. But still, even if that's the case, you should encourage each other," she added. "Oh, right. I heard Evan's been working very hard at sword training. Do you want to go watch him with me?" He replied, "I'm fine," she says, "but I want to go." Duke was holding a paper and speak while looking at it. "Then go ahead. I'm busy." With tears in her eyes, she said, "But we're family. Back at Losstree Estate, my family wasn't close. But I really want to get along with everyone here. I was really sad that Evan couldn't even make it for tea." Then she coughed and spoke. "I spend most of my time in bed, because I'm sick, so I want to make lots of good memories, while I can." Hearing this, the Duke remembers the words spoken by Laria's mother. "My daughter, Laria, is sick. She's going to die. She has Garba lung disease. She will only live until her early 20s. At best. What am I going to do about my poor daughter?" she said. "I really want you and Evan," Duke replied. "All right. Let's go. Let's make those good memories right now," she said happily. "Yes, Father." Duke started walking after her. She smiled and says, "Let's go, Father." Duke said, "All right, smile." She began to think. "Hold on a little longer. I'm going to bring in an even stronger predator than that guy," Duke said. "Laria, that's not the right way. The training hall is to the left." She smiled and says, "Oh, I heard that Evan is receiving individual training from Captain Ludvar himself." "Evan's being trained here?" "Yes. I remember them saying he'd be behind the rose garden." Hearing this, Duke thought, "I haven't been to the rose garden since Matilda's passing." "And Ludvar," she said. "Let's go, Father." Duke speaks. "All right." They step forward. She says, "Let's keep ourselves hidden. I want to see how good Evan really is." Duke said, "All right." Then she began to think. "I just barely managed to bring the Duke here by acting all pitiful. But where in the world is Evan, and why are they training in the garden? When she saw Ludvar, she said, "Oh, father, Captain." Just then, Ludvar asked Evan, "You see the flowers in this garden?" Then Ludvar said, "Lady Matilda looked after them with all her heart when she was alive. But now, this garden is barren, just like the Icardes estate. This is all because of you, Sir Evan." She thought, "What is that guy even saying? Has he lost his mind?" Ludvar speaks, "It is only right for your life to fall into ruin as well." Then she saw Ludvar's sword and began to think, "Anyway, what's with their swords? Evan is using a practice sword, but the captain has a real one." She shouted loudly, "Father Evans, father!" Laria looked around, but the Duke was not there. Ludvar speaks, "I think you often forget because no one reminds you. But you're not allowed to dream of happiness. You must always live in atonement." When he looked back, the Duke, in anger, punched him hard, and he fell to the ground. Then the Duke grabbed him by the collar and asked, "How dare you mistreat my son in Matilda's name?" Duke punched him again. Laria came up to him and said, "Evan." Evan asked, "Laria, what's going on?" Laria replied, "I begged father to bring me to watch you train. But what is all this?" Evan placed his hand over her eyes and spoke, "Don't look, and don't listen. It's ugly. You don't need to see this." Then Laria began to think, "But I came here for that specific reason. Why is he so strong?" The soldiers came running over and said, "Captain?" They saw that the Duke was standing and then asked, "Your Grace, what's going on?" Duke replied, "Send him to the dungeon." The Duke's hands and face were covered in blood. He said, "I'll be seeing him soon." Soldiers reply, "Yes, sir." Then Duke shout loudly, How stupid must you be to just sit there and listen to all that nonsense?" Hearing this, Laria thought, "Father, now isn't the right time for that line." Evan asked, "He's not wrong." Duke asked, "What?" Evan says, "Had I never been born." At that moment, Laria began to think, "What are you talking about, Evan? Father, say something." Duke speaks, "You are the heir to the Icardes dukedom. Do not let those beneath you treat you like this ever again." Laria thought, "Wait, that's it? All you did was beat up Ludvar? You heard what Evan had to go through, even though the perpetrator is gone. The situation hasn't improved?" Laria says, "Don't say that, Evan. How can you say something like that? It's not your fault that your mother died." Evan replied, "But I'm the cause of her death. I may have failed to wield my authority, but Ludvar was right about everything. You shouldn't get too close to me. I'm not worth it." Laria held his hand and said, "No, Evan, that's not true. I'm very happy that I can be here with you." Evan asked, "Why?" Laria replied, "Because you're cute." Evan thought, "Cute?" Laria speaks, "I'm sure your mother wouldn't have wanted you to live miserably either. Even your father didn't let his life fall apart after she passed, right?" Then Laria asked, "Shouldn't you also try living your life to its fullest?" Evan asked, "To its fullest?" Laria replied, "Yeah, doing whatever it takes." Then Evan held Laria's hand and said, "Laria, for all those times I was harsh to you and ignored your kindness, I'm really sorry." Laria smiled and says, "It's all right." Evan asked, "How can it be all right?" Laria replied, "We're married. Even if we get upset with each other, time will take care of it." When Evan rested his head on her shoulder, Laria said, "Evan?" Evan says, "Don't ever abandon me. Please forgive me." Then Laria thought, "He's on the verge of breaking. That's to be expected. He had to face something he'd always been afraid of." Then she said, all right, let's go, Evan." "Does it hurt to walk?" Evan replied, "A little." She thinks, "Oh no, I'm about to cough." Suddenly, she shouted loudly, "Wait a second, there's something important I need to do. Excuse me, could you give Evan a hand, please?" A servant said, "Oh yes, my lady." Then Laria started coughing, and Evan stood there watching her. After a short while, she suddenly ran away. Evan couldn't take his eyes off her. Servant said, "Sir Evan, are you all right? I'll help you walk." Evan asked, "What's your name?" He replied, "I'm Cobb Johansson, sir." Evan asked, "Are you married?" Cobb Johansson replied, "No, not yet." Evan asked again, "Are you seeing anyone?" Cobb replied, "I was in a long-term relationship, but we're not together anymore. I've been seeing someone else recently, though. I think it's going well." Evan said, "So you've dated 2 women? Hey, Cobb." Cobb says, "Yes, Sir Evan." Evan asked, "Am I cute?" Cobb replied, "I mean yes, you are very charming." Evan asked, "Tell me the truth. It's in order." Cobb replied, "You aren't cute at all." Evan added, "Really? I think the same. Thank you for your honesty." Cobb speaks, "To be frank with you, sir, I would say you're more rude than cute." Evan added, "You're very honest." Cobb says, "I'm sorry." Evan asked, Then why would she say that I'm cute? Is there a reason a girl would tell a boy that? Hearing this, Cobb asked. A girl, he said. In that case. Then he thought I had asked a girl too. Honey, how do I look? She smiled and replied. Oh yeah, you look cute. Then he asked. Is that lady a nice person? Evan replied. Very. Cobb added. Well then, I think she wanted to say something nice to you, but couldn't think of anything in particular to compliment you on. Evan asked sadly. Really? Then how are boys supposed to act? In front of girls they want to get along with? Cobb was listening quietly. Then Evan plucked a flower and asked, if you have someone you treasure, how do you express that to them? Sven was listening to music and speak while enjoying his tea. The tea is especially fragrant today. Suddenly, Serena slammed the door in anger and spoke. Sven! When she came inside, Sven asked. Yes, Serena. What's the matter? Serena replied. She's perfect. Absolutely amazing. Sven asked. What are you talking about? Serena replied. Lady Laria. Her ability to strategize while keeping herself hidden is something else. There was a situation today that would have been too difficult for her alone, but she managed to guide Duke Icardes to the scene and took care of everything without a hitch. She even sent me a signal, asking if the captain's name was Sven. I'm impressed. Hearing this, Sven thought, I knew it. No wonder she caught my eye at the racecourse. Serena speaks. She's the one we're looking for. She's completely different from how she appears, incredible tactical skills, and she's so good at acting, Sven said. For the time being, let's stay close and watch her grow. Gently running his hand over his cat, he spoke. It seems she's planning to leave the estate, so we should help her as much as we can. She says, of course. She should be free. It's a waste for her to be stuck in the dukedom, he said. Perhaps, she asked. Perhaps, what? He replied. The Duke might be planning to kill Lady Laria, so he can have Sir Evan marry Princess Ilani once he gains more power. Hearing this, she shocked and speaks. Oh my. He probably took her in on purpose because she has no family. No one would care if she died. Then she slammed the table in anger and shouted. Geez, he's such trash. No wonder he wasn't surprised when I told him she was terminally ill. He speaks calmly. I didn't know he was such a terrible person. This is too much, she added. Maybe that's why Lady Laria is trying to run away. It all makes sense now. There's no reason for her to stay loyal to the dukedom, he asked. What do you mean? Then she winked and replied. I'll take responsibility, and find a good man for Lady Laria, he added. She's married, Serena, don't forget that. She says, cheating is common in arranged marriages anyway. It'll be over the moment she runs away. Sven picked up a map, opened it, and said, listen, Serena, if Lady Laria agrees with our plan, this is how we move forward. Then he placed his finger on the map, showing Serena something, and said, once the princess is close to marriageable age, we'll help Lady Laria escape. I guess the best place for her to go would be Manhua, since she's already familiar with it. Duke Icardes will declare her missing, and have Sir Evan marry Princess Ilani. Lady Laria will then be forced to constantly escape from the dukedom. Hearing this, she shocked and asked, but what if he doesn't have Sir Evan wed the princess? He replied, that's not possible. Then she asked, what if Sir Evan really falls in love with Lady Laria? I saw the way he looked at her today, he replied. That would be a catastrophe. The Duke is cold to his son. He won't care about what he loves. She says, that's true, Sven said while brushing his cat. We must be careful. If Sir Evan is anything like his father, he won't let the woman he loves go. Then Sven stood up, brushed it toward her, and spoke. Don't provoke them, and let them stay the awkward couple they are. She asked. What? He said. Don't do anything like teach Lady Laria how to look at men, or offer to introduce her to someone else. She says, but early education is important, he said. You absolutely cannot let Sir Evan fall in love with Lady Laria. If that happens, everything will fall apart. Do you understand? She turned back and said, all right, and Lady Laria asked for something. He asked, huh? What is it? She replied. She said she wants to earn some money, so she wants us to find someone for her. Evan was sitting in his room, looking through a book, when Laria came in and said, Evan, shouldn't we go to bed? I'm sleepy, he says. Yeah, we should. She saw the book in Evan's hands and thought, he's looking through that book again. I'll take pity on him this time, since today must have been rough for him. She stepped forward and asked, want me to read to you till you fall asleep, Evan? He replied, but that's something only kids do. She said, sure you don't want to? He handed her book and said, I suppose we are kids, after all. She began to think. He's such a cutie. Then they both went to the bed and sat down. Laria opened the book and said, Let's see. Evan rested his head on Laria's shoulder. Laria began to think. I didn't tell him to lean on me. He must have been really shaken up by what happened today. Then Laria started reading. The baby bear liked watching the stars in the night sky. But one day, a star turned into a shooting star and disappeared. The baby bear traversed mountains and fields to bring the star back. He searched and searched, desperate to find it. During this, she thought, these don't look like the kind of drawings you'd expect from a children's book. Then she started reading again. The baby bear arrived at the ocean, and finally held the star in his arms. It had become a starfish. The end. At that moment, she thought, what kind of story is this? You should think about what the starfish wants, too, Evan said. It's such a good story, isn't it? She says. Yeah. Then she thought again. I can't say it's weird since I was the one who bought it. He says. Then let's go to sleep now. As soon as Evan hugged her, Laria looked surprised and asked, Wait, Evan. Why are we in this position? He replied. Because you keep hugging me in your sleep. Hearing this, she thought, I did that to see your injuries. I brought this upon myself. Brushing his fingers through her hair, he said, I'm sorry for everything, so I'm going to try and do the things you like ahead of time. Don't worry, we just have to make sure not to hold hands. I'll be careful. Trust me, she says. All right. At that moment, she thought, as if. How am I supposed to fall asleep like this? She said. Evan, don't listen to Ludvar. He speaks. I didn't. He told me I can't be happy with you, but I won't be shaken by words like that anymore. She added, No, not that. I'm talking about that nonsense he said, about how everyone is unhappy because of you. He says, but it's true, Laria. Including father, everything at the estate misses mother. Unless she comes back to life, this is a darkness that I must carry with me forever. Hearing this, she sat up and said, But it wasn't your fault. If you don't overcome this darkness, you'll be unhappy. He speaks. But I can't do anything about it, Laria. Right. I've only been here for a short while, and I won't be around much longer. I guess I can't erase his deep-rooted trauma all at once, but when I look at you, Laria, I something think that maybe this is what a family is supposed to be like. My first family outing was when we went to the race course. That day, we were just like any other family. Hearing this, Laria leaned toward him. He said again, That day, we were thinking the same thing. The next day, Evan began taking classes meant to prepare him as heir of the dukedom. They were supposed to begin in the fall, but the Duke ordered him to start right away. Laria was coming into the hall when she thought, This isn't the time for classes. When she entered the room, she saw Lisa and asked, Lisa, what is all this? Lisa replied, His Grace sent them. Laria asked, Why? Lisa replied, Perhaps he's expressing his gratitude. After all, he only found out about everything because you asked to watch the training session. Laria began to think. That sounds reasonable, Lisa said. He ordered everything from the jewelry shop you spent the most time at. Hearing this, Laria thought, if he just sends all of these gifts without asking my opinion, I'll be so thankful. Then she smiled and says, Let's go thank him right now. Lisa speaks. I don't think now's a good time, Laria asked. We? Why? Lisa replied. He's in the middle of personally torturing the captain, the former captain in the dungeon, Laria said. Then, when should I go? Lisa says. In a couple days, maybe? After some time, Serena was sitting with Lara and having tea. Then Serena speaks. He's torturing him without even letting him have a sip of water. The guy asked to be killed, but he wouldn't even let him have that, Laria said. How do you know all that, Serena? You don't live here, but you know more about the happenings within the estate than I do. Serena smiled and speaks. Oh, I'm friends with the guy that works in the dungeon. He tells you all that just because you're friends? Oh, we're really affectionate friends. Hearing this, Lara laughed. Then she thought, somehow, I feel like you two might not be on the same page. Serena placed her teacup on the table and said, Anyway, it's sad that this happened because of the captain's one-sided love for Lady Matilda. He shouldn't have taken it out on the poor kid. Laria asked. Does Evan know that? Serena replied. Yes. Everyone knows, so it only makes sense that he does, too. Laria think. Evan, Serena added. But Sir Evan seems to be traumatized by that incident. Hearing this, Laria surprised and asked, What do you mean? Did something happen? Serena replied. The new captain wore a blue uniform, just like Ludvar, and apparently Sir Evan had difficulty breathing when he saw him. Hearing this, Laria asked again. What? Serena replied. After that, Sir Evan requested that they do a few tests, and now he starts hyperventilating and breaking out in cold sweats whenever he sees people in blue uniforms. So the Duke ordered everyone not to wear blue uniforms in front of Sir Evan. Of course, only Ludvar wore that blue. Laria began to think. But Evan didn't say anything. Maybe he didn't want to appear weak. Then she said, But how did you hear all this? Even I didn't know, and I'm married to him, Serena said while eating cake. Oh. I'm close friends with one of the knights. At that moment, Laria lost in thought. I have a feeling I know why Serena is the guild's second in command. At night, Laria was standing near the acacia tree. She picked an acacia fruit, and while eating it, she became lost in thought. Since Eva's been coming home late from his lessons, it's nice I can have time to eat my acacia fruits. When she saw the Duke leaving, she began to thought again. Duke, where is he going in the middle of the night? Isn't that the direction of the rose garden? After a while she said, Father, Duke says. Laria? She asked. Where are you going at this hour? He asked. And what might you be doing this late at night? She replied. I woke up and Evan wasn't here yet. I couldn't fall back asleep, so I came out to look for him. But I found you instead. You're so very handsome even at night, Father. I really do wish Evan will grow to take after your looks. He added, I mean, you don't have to tell me that. She think, see? He likes it. Then she speaks. Oh, and I love the gifts you sent me. Thank you so much, he says. Of course, she said. You should have sent something to Evan too, though, he added. Evan has a lot of money to spend. You're different, she says, but still. He raised his hand and said, If you think it's a problem, I'll raise his allowance limit. Hearing this, she lost in thought. It's not about money, though. We keep talking about different things. Let's just be upfront about it. Then she speaks. I heard that Evan has a panic attack when he sees people in blue uniforms. I'm just afraid he'll have a lot of trauma afterwards, he says calmly. That's why I ordered everyone to not wear blue in front of Evan. The only other order in the capital that wears blue uniforms is the Alia Countship, so I sent a letter telling them to change their uniforms as well. Hearing this, she thought again. That's just putting a band-aid on it. It's not going to treat his trauma. We're not on the same page. Let's just change the topic, she said. Father, but this is the way too, he replied. Matilda used to like this place. I thought a lot of her today, she says. Evan feels a lot of guilt, he added, but he's still growing up well, right? His academy grades are good. His sword skills are great. And he's doing fine in his lessons to become the heir. But that doesn't mean he's growing up well, she said. He's hurt on the inside. Then she think. He's clinging on to me for help because he's unstable. After a while she speaks. Evan thinks the whole estate has been ruined because of him. But that's not his fault. I don't think he should be left alone like this, he said. I know. She think again. Then you shouldn't be leaving him like this, he says. I know I've done him wrong before, and that I'm not doing a good job with him right now. If I were to go back, I'd want to be a good father to Evan from the beginning, she added. Then you could start right now, he said, but it's not going to be taken care of with a couple kind words. We've already come too far, she says. But that's when you should start acting. He speaks calmly. These problems will be taken care of someday. If I do well, everything will be as it's supposed to be. Then he stepped forward and said, because Evan and I will end up being happy. With another fundamental solution, she asked. How? He replied. You don't need to know. Hearing this, she thought, if he's being like that, I'm sure he has some great plan. I should have read the epilogue, he said. If things go according to my plan, everything will be as it's supposed to be. So, I can't stop. Hearing this, she thought again. That means, he's going to become the Archvillain, who controls everything. Does that mean Evan's state of being will stabilize? Is that even possible? There was a lot more I wanted to ask so I could understand. But I couldn't say anything, since the plan that would make Evan and the Duke fundamentally happy includes my death. In the morning, both of them were sitting at the dining table. Evan passed the fish toward her and said, Here, Laria, have this, she says. Evan, I can eat it myself. He speaks. Oh, your cup is empty. Here, have some fruit too, she added. What's wrong? I can do it myself, he said. It's because I've been so sorry, so I'll be good to you from now on. Then she thought, is this because he's sorry for ignoring me all this time? Well, I guess my acting was pretty touching, he asked. If you're done, should we go for a walk? She asked. What? Aren't you going to go for your training? He replied. I have time for a morning walk with you. I heard you like going to the back garden. Let's head out there, she says. I mean, she thought again. That's because the ecclesia fruits are in the back garden. But I can't refuse if he wants to. They both reached the garden. He asked, Isn't it hot, Laria? She replied. No, it's fine. Evan took her hand and said, Come here, walk this way. She began to think. What is wrong with Evan? He's not the type to be like this. Something's weird. A boy was watching them secretly and said, Sir Evan, please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, as it really helps our channel grow. Thanks. He stepped forward and asked, Hello? Are you two taking a walk? Seeing him, Laria thought, it's the servant that I trusted Evan with. But that way is not somewhere a servant can go, he said. I really wanted to meet the young master, because my sister is serving someone who has a relative that just got admitted to the academy where the young master graduated from. From what I've heard, weren't you the valedictorian? Hearing this, Laria thought, what a terrible act. An actor can realize another actor. Especially, a pro can spot an amateur in the blink of an eye. He smiled and said, You even won first place in the swordsmanship competition hosted by the academy. You've accomplished a lot at the age of 12. She thought again. I can see right away that they planned this, he says. It's child's play. What child's play? I heard you were at a disadvantage because there were 17-year-old competitors as well, she thought. They're trying so hard. I should play along. Then she said, Oh my, Evan. You're so great. I totally didn't know, Evan says. Well, it's long time ago, she added, but it's still first place. There are many students in the academy as well, so talented, he speaks. Then, please excuse me first, Evan replied. All right, then he said, Hey Laria, I haven't been exactly doing things just for fun, but I'll try harder from now on. Didn't you say that too? My mom would want the same thing, she began to think. Do I remind Evan of his mother? Coming to think of it, it makes sense. Evan's always stressed emotionally because of Ludva. And what I've been doing for him all this time is also what he expected from his mother. I think Lisa was right last time. She recalls that Lisa said, Looking at you makes me think of Lady Matilda. Then, let's fulfill the role of a mother. Then she asked, Have you talked to your father after that day? Evan replied, Well, not yet. They talk and walk together, she says. Talking and getting along, he said. I'll do what he wants anyway. So there's no need to have a conversation. She asked, Is that so? Then she think, Nothing changed at all. She asked again, Shall we take a rest? He replied, Sure. She think again. Fine. I can't do that much anyway. I'll treat Evan like a mother until his emotional wounds are healed. Evan has been living in misery. It'd be great if he could be happy. A little later, when Laria was in her room, suddenly Serena came in and said, Lady Laria? Laria asked. Oh, Serena, you're here already? Did you find out anything about that person? Serena replied, Yeah, I was going to disguise myself as someone who sold medicine. Laria said, Thank you, Serena says. Lady Laria, I have something to ask. You're leaving as the right times comes, right? Laria speaks. I guess. Then she think, Why is she asking me this all of a sudden? Serena grabbed both of her hands and said, I'll help you. I mean with the escape. It's a shame to stay here with the young master's money. Hearing this, Laria thought, What's with her? Then she says, Get to the point. There's no reason for the Dark Intelligence Organization Bestian to have that feeling. Serena speaks. About that, I'll tell you later when we're with Sven. Laria began to think. Well, I have no reason to decline your help. Suddenly, Lisa came and says, Lady Laria, it's the kid from the herb store. She said you'll know? Laria replied, It's about time. I called for him. Then he came inside and said, Hello, young lady, I'm Redian Cares. Laria said, Hello, Redian. I called for you because I want to purchase your paintings. Redian asked. My paintings? Then Laria began to think. That was surprise. Redian is still an artist that no one knows about, painting in his small room. But the male lead, Seymour, will pay attention to Redian's paintings later on. Seymour will buy some first, then introduce the rest at the store, making Redian more known. So in conclusion, he'll be the artist that works with Seymour. I should take this chance to make some money. Laria smiled and said, Yes, that's right. I'll give your paintings about 5 points. Is 1 gold coin for each enough? Hearing this, Redian shocked and says, That's too much. Laria continued thinking. In the future, when Seymour has your back, each of your paintings would be worth about 100 gold coins. Too much, but there's no reason not to make a sale. Then she asked? Then I'll take about 10. How about 1,600 coins for 2 paintings? Redian replied. I got it, thank you. She smiled and speaks. Please make the paintings about flowers. Just give them to Serena when you're done. She'll know what to do. Redian replied. Yes, Redian asked. About that, hey lady, how did you know about my paintings? She replied. I came to the city a while ago and saw them. They left an impression on me, so I remember it. Lying. I really appreciate your way with colors. She think again. It's actually Seymour's thoughts, but never mind. I think you know why I called you in secret. I hope you won't tell anyone in the palace. Redian replied. Yes, I got it. I heard the previous lady really liked paintings, so she called for many artists. I understand that you're under pressure because you're doing the same thing. Hearing this, she thought, is that so? I didn't know about it. Redian asked. Can I draw a portrait of you? She said. My portrait? Hearing this, she thought, let's me see. Such luck. I can't pretend like I don't love it. A portrait in Redian's style. It will be hard to say exactly how much it will be worth in the future. Redian smiled and said, I'm very grateful to you for appreciating my paintings, lady. It's my first big order, so I wanted to draw something for you. She asked. I don't have any problem with it, but I don't see your tools, he added. I only need to take a good look at you, and I can remember it to draw. She thought, a genius artist sure is different. Then Serena asked, the weather's nice today. Shall we go outside to get some sunlight? As soon as she came out of the room, Lisa was standing in front of her and asked, Are you done with your treatment, lady? She replied, Not yet. Perhaps I need some more explanation about the herbs. It was suffocating in there, so I went outside. Serena and I will go to the garden now. See you in a bit, Lisa says. Yes, I understand. Lisa went into the room and was surprised. Then she said, Oh my. Hello, sir, young Duke Evan. Evan says, Oh, Lisa. Lisa added, I apologize. I thought you were practicing. Evan speaks. It's all right. I came inside because of something. Evan picked up the box and asked, And, do you know where Laria is? In a shop, a young boy asked. What did you say? Redian Cares got called. An old woman smiled and replied, Yes? He used to be so sulky because he couldn't sell any painting. But he's so happy now. He followed Duke Icardes' lady's servant. The lady liked the paintings so much that she ordered quite a few. It's really a good thing. Hearing this, he think, young Duke Icardes' lady, why does she keep doing the same thing with me at the same time? Even if the situation at the horse race was a coincidence. And then he went to the shop where the shopkeeper was reading the newspaper. He asked, Is this the Dark Intelligence Guild? Then he said, It's this person. The guild master will know right away if you say it. Shopkeeper says, Seriously, he already came. It's no use pretending to be him. He asked, Pretending? He put his finger on the newspaper and said, No, if you take a good look. Shopkeeper said, Oh, my bad. I thought it was the same person. Then he began to think. So the lady already came? Shopkeeper speaks. Please follow me. I'll lead the way. He followed him and thought, Why would the lady come here? He led him to Sven. Sven speaks. Here. Welcome, Sir Seymour Goldlichua. Seymour said, Hello, Guildmaster. Then he showed the ticket with the winning money and added, Since you've already done research about me, let's get to the point. I want to buy a title with this money, and with the rest, I'll buy the Manhua territory. Sven think, What? Why is he staring at me like that? Then Sven speaks. I understand why you want the title, but I heard someone already purchased a part of the Manhua territory, so I'm afraid this will be difficult. Or would you like to buy the rest of it? Seymour asked. Who bought the territory? Sven smiled and replied, I can't tell you that. Then Seymour began to think. Though he didn't tell me who the buyer was, I had a feeling it was the young Duke Icardes' lady. She wouldn't have bought it if it didn't have special meaning. Isn't it enough that we bought land at the same time? Lost in thought, by mistake, he ended up back at the old woman's place. Then he says, She even called for Redian Cares. An old woman asked, Huh, what did you just say? When he saw it, he said, Oh, it's nothing, thank you. He came outside, and he fell into thought once more. It's so strange. No matter how I think, how can we have the same thoughts? He looked at the picture in the newspaper and said, Young Duke Icardes' lady, a noble, different from me since birth. I'm just a commoner. Then he thought again. How can a person like that walk on the same road as me? My competitiveness is burning. He went over to the carriage and said, "Let's go home." Coachman reply, "Yes, sir." He got into the carriage and lost in thoughts. I must go home and do more research on the lady. There must be something I'm not aware of. Strange, how can we have the same exact thoughts? Then he was shocked and said to himself, "No way. Is it destiny? My other half. Is it even possible? Indeed, I must meet her, at any cost." They arrives at the park. Serena speaks. "Ah, the weather is so nice today. It's perfect for sketching portraits," Laria said. "All right, keep your voice down. You'll disturb other people." "What should I do? It's the first time I've been a drawing model," Serena says. "Just relax and act natural. Pretend there's no one else around," Laria said. "Is that so? Then I'll read a book." She opens the book. Sven called Serena with a gesture. Then she speaks. "Laria, may I be excused for a moment?" Laria says. "Okay, make sure to return," Serena said. "Thank you." Then Laria began to think. "Reading in places like this makes me feel much more comfortable. It's so quiet. Should I get out now then like this more often?" she asked. "Serena, are you back already?" Then she saw Evan. She stepped forward and asked, "Evan, what are you doing here? Isn't this your training time?" He replied, "Well, I came to give you this." She asked, "This, what is it?" She opened the box, saw her, and thought, "It's what you gave me last time." "Ah, the ganache from back then?" he said. "You said you waited in line for an hour, because you wanted to eat it with me, so I thought we should do what we couldn't back then." She thought again. That ganache was just an excuse. I had something I needed to deal with. Then she asked, "Ah, I see. But did you buy it yourself and bring it here?" He smiled and replied, "You didn't ask Icardes and lined up yourself. So I did the same." She speaks. "Ah, thank you for your effort. But you didn't have to go that far," he said. "Let's go into the city next time. Today, I only did this because I wanted to return your effort. That day, the knights at the training ground didn't inform me and returned it to Lisa. That won't happen again." Hearing this, she thought, as I thought. "Ludva ordered it returned," he says. "From now on, even if you come back later than I do, I'll stay awake and wait for you," she said. "That's so." He saw him and asked, "However, who are you?" She thought, "Ah, right. Redian is here." He stepped forward and asked, "Why do you keep staring at Laria?" Redian got scared in reply. "Yes?" She think, "This is bad. How should I tell him? If I say he's an artist, people might find out about the slush fund. But saying he's a drugstore owner doesn't explain why he's staring," Redian said. "About that." Then she stepped forward and think. "First, I have to defuse the situation," she says. "You may leave now," Redian reply. "Ah, yes, yes," Evan shouted loudly. "Laria is my wife." Hearing this, she shocked and began to think. "What? What's wrong with him? Is there anybody who hasn't known that by now?" Evan speaks. "She's not someone you can look at with those eyes." Redian apologized and ran away. Laria think. "Sorry, Redian," Evan asked. "Who exactly is he?" She clenched her fist and think. At times like this, gaslighting is the way to go. Then she asked, "Evan, are you really that petty?" He said, "What?" Then she shouted loudly, angrily, "No matter how high our status is, we're not people others aren't allowed to look at." He said, "What?" She added calmly, "I thought you'd know that already, since you went to the academy." He got scared and asked, "What are you talking about?" "That." Then she think, "Good. Time for the ultimate strike." She speaks. "Personally, I think it's wrong to discriminate against commoners as a noble." Now then, Evan grabbed her arm. She thought, "Evan's using so much strength that I can't escape." He said, "Laria, I know you are kind-hearted, but him being a commoner was not the problem. Problem was," she says. "Evan, wait, I need to use the restroom." Then she think, "Crap, to think I would cough at a moment like this." She coughs violently. He shouted loudly, "Laria, is anyone here? Call the kitchen servant immediately. There's poison," she said. "Evan, it's not poison. I'm fine, calm down," he shouted loudly. "Who dared harm the young Duchess?" She speaks. "I really am fine, Evan. It's not a big deal, calm down." "Listen, you might not know this, but I've been like this for a long time." He asked. "What, since a long time ago?" "Why?" she replied. "Evan, wait, you must calm down first." Then she thought, "Do I really have to tell him I have a terminal illness? For a child already traumatized by Ludva, and was traumatized from his mother's death, It's too cruel to tell him that his wife is going to die. In difficult situations like this, I should just let someone else handle the mess. Then she said, Evan, I have to use the restroom right now. It's not poisoning, so don't get innocent people involved. You can ask father for the details. I'm still a child, so I don't fully understand my condition as well. Since father was the one who has been treating me, would he know best about this? Father has been treating me. He knows best. Suddenly, Lisa came and asked, My lady, are you all right? Evan says, Ah, Lisa, good timing. Please guide me to the restroom. Then he run and said, Wait for me, Laria. I'll go to father and be right back. Laria think, just leave already. Then he suddenly turned back. At that moment she think, What? Why is he coming back? Then he came close to her and said, Don't worry, I will heal you, even if I have to use all of the Duke family's money. Then he ran away. When Serena arrived, Lisa shouted loudly, Where exactly did you go? Then she said, Huh, you're the doctor. How can you let this happen? Serena thought, trying to understand the situation. Then she says, I was trying to understand the situation. I was there when she coughed, but I didn't find anything abnormal. Lisa added, Even so, something urgent could have happened. Why didn't you fulfill your duty? Serena hugged her and said, I got it. I'll make sure to stick around, Lady Laria, so just return. Lisa shouted loudly, What do you mean by that? I have to help her change this bloody dress first. Come with me, Lady Laria. This way, Lady Laria. Laria think, Stop it, you two. She was sitting in her room, then she recalls that Even said, Don't worry, I'll fix you, even if it means draining the whole Duke family's money. Serena asked, Lady Laria, what do you think about this dress? She turned her face and replied, Oh, it looks all right. Suddenly, Lisa came and shouted loudly, Hey! Why would a doctor pick out the dress? Isn't that out of your authority? Serena said, I don't see anything wrong. Lisa says, Just do your job first. Laria thought, Will Evan be fine? He seemed really shocked. Suddenly, a maid came and said, Lisa, the Duke called for you. Lisa said, Me? Okay, I got it. Serena smiled and speaks, Great. Lady Laria, you should wear this. Laria says, Lisa is called, so I think I have to go soon too. Serena speaks, Because the young Duke Evan knows about your condition. We have to find a way to deal with it. We may even turn this into an opportunity. Laria asked, What kind of opportunity? Serena replied, The young Duke said that he bought ganache, right? And he even asked you to drink tea with him? That's a bit dangerous. Laria asked. What is? Serena asked. What if he falls for you? Hearing this, Laria shocked and replied, Huh, Evan is just 13 years old, and he's not someone who falls for another so easily. Serena speaks, Oh my. What are you talking about? 13 is the right age to have your first love. Then Laria recalls that Even said, We're kids. Laria thought, Seriously, so cute. Then she says, I'm not sure. Evan grew up in this environment, so Evan sees me as a mother now. He'll be better in the future. After a while, Laria speaks. Maybe I'll know if I get closer to Evan. I think Evan only wants to be closer to me. Serena added, Anyway, we should get rid of him soon. Staying together would only develop the relationship. Laria said, Well, that's not wrong. Serena whispered in her ear, I got it. How about we do this? Then Laria whispered in her ear, Right, but to escape, we'll need to add. After a while, she goes over to Duke. She asked, Father, you called for me. Duke replied, Yes, come in. She walks over and sits down with Evan. Then Duke said, This kid barged in eyes wide. So I told him that it wasn't anything critical. Hearing this, she thought, Right. It wouldn't do anyone any good if he said it was serious. Duke asked, But why did you bring your doctor with you? Serena replied, Because I have something to say. Thanks to me, Lady Laria has been in better condition. Hearing this, Duke said, Is it true? Lisa replied, Yes. She hasn't been coughing blood that much. Laria began to think, I've been worrying about Evan so much that I don't cough anymore. Then Evan speaks, Why didn't you take longer to find someone, and just picked a random person? I picked her myself. She graduated from the medical academy, with outstanding achievements, and she was complimented in the recommendation letters as well. Hearing this, Laria began to think, Yes, that's right, though it's all fake. Then Evan slammed his hand on the table and shouted loudly, Is it true that you brought the greatest doctor in the land? We can't let her become like Mother. Hearing this, she shocked and think, Wow, this is so intense. At that moment, Duke stood up and spoke. You've shared the same room for so long. Shouldn't you know your wife's symptoms by now? Why are you making a fuss? Or don't you trust me? How careless must you be, to not know that your wife coughs blood? Evan asked. Then do you know about it? Duke replied calmly. Of course. I even ordered handkerchiefs. Hearing this, she began to think. That's a bit much. You knew it from the beginning and brought me here, Duke said. That's why I got a thank you card. Evan says. I got one as well. Then Duke asked. Then did you get a painting? Hearing this, Evan surprised and said. Painting, no. Well, I did, but the content was long on my card. Duke says. Well, I did, but the content was long on my card. Evan asked. How many lines? Laria began to think. What are you guys doing? I was hoping they'd have a serious conversation. Not something like this. I won't see the end of this. Then she said. Hey, Evan, if you're mad because I'm a sick wife then. Evan says. What? It's not like that, she speaks. Or do I remind you of Lady Matilda? Evan asked. Why would you make me think of my mother? She think again. Isn't that the case? After a while, Serena speaks. Anyway, thanks to me, the lady's condition is much better, but this morning, to completely treat it, I think we should let her have a period of convalescence, Duke said. Convalescence? Sina replied. Yes. This place is really close to the capital, and there's not much shade. I think it would be good if she goes to a place that's warmer and has more trees. Since her lungs aren't that well, it's best to get fresh air. It will optimize the therapy's results. Laria think. Will it work? Serena said. First, you have to get away from Sir Evan, and you should gather money and manage the territory that you bought. According to my research, there's a villa in Varatna under Duke Icardes' property. It's really close to Manhua. The territory that you bought, Laria asked. So we'll use convalescence as an excuse to move to Manhua? Serena laughed, winked and said, Yes. That's right. If you go there, you'll be able to get away from the young husband at home and go date anyone you like. Hearing this, Laria lost in thought. Serena's right. Even if it's under another person's name, I'm still the owner of that territory. I can't let it just be like that. After hearing all this, Duke asked, So will she be treated completely? Serena replied, Nothing in this world is complete. But still, it can increase our chances. Even just a bit. Evan asked. What you're saying is very vague. Are you sure she'll get better if she comes to Varatna? Serena replied. I'll take responsibility. If something happens during the treatment, my reputation as a doctor might be destroyed. Seeing all this, Laria thought, Serena's such a great actress, though she doesn't have a license to practice medicine. Then she speaks. I want to go. Ever since I met Serena, I've felt so much better. At that moment, she coughed and said, I want to live a long life. With father and Evan. Evan shouted, Laria. Then Duke asked, Is it true that you can completely treat Laria? Serena replied, That's not something I can guarantee, but I'll try my best. Duke asked, Do your very best. At that moment, Laria thought, It's clearly an act, but it also sounds sincere. There's no reason to doubt her. Oh, maybe it's because Evan is here. After a while, Serena speaks. Yes. I'll do everything I can. So let's get to Varatna first, Evan said. Then I'll go too. Hearing this, Serena's shocked and speaks. What? No way. The young master who's about to take over the title is going away for a while? You've attended the academy for some time. Aren't you taking the air classes right now? Laria says. That's right, Evan. I don't want you to live lazily because of me. Evan asked. Live lazily? Laria asked. That's right. You must become an outstanding duke. Why would you want to follow me just to play? Evan says. Play? Laria said. I want to be the wife of an excellent duke. Evan added. Then, you should go. If it makes you better. She thought. Great. I think it worked, he said. You must overcome this. If you leave too, then she added, then I'll get better, and live happily with you. Of course, I want to live happily with father too. When I get better, I want to go places, like the horse race course. But to do that, I have to listen to Serena. It might be a burden to Icardes. So please tell everyone it's only mild pneumonia. I don't want others to treat me like a patient. Duke speaks. Is that so? You should bring the best maids with you. Hearing this, she thought, how many people is he going to send to keep an eye on me? Duke added, I'll build a mansion right away. I'll have the butler create a budget too. The young Duke of Icardes' lady must live in a perfect place. Then she thought again. Oh, so it's all about reputation. After a while he said, I'll send the entire garden you like there. I hear trees grow well in the south. she says. Oh my, thank you. Then she began to think. I was worried about the eclasia. But it's fine now, he said. I'll come occasionally, Laria, she says. Thank you, Evan. The treatment I was worried about is moving faster than I expected. At night, she stood by the eclasia tree, lost in thought. The treatment I was worried about is being carried out faster than I thought. Isn't there so much to do? Even if it's not that. If Duke Icardes takes me back, I'll need to pay him some money as payment, but he gives me a whole mansion. When I say I'm going alone, what if I become a burden, because I cost too much? Those idiots! Then, suddenly, crumpled paper touched on her head. She saw Duke and thought. That startled me. Then, she saw the crumpled paper and said, they're making money, so they're selling gods again. She thought again. Did he say gods? She picks it up and after unfolding it and said, indeed, it's about the temple. Then, she began to read. Duke Icardes can't go to heaven. Reading this, she thought. The news about my treatment has finally reached the temple. When nobles get sick, they take donations and call it blessings. It's not my money, so I don't really mind, but if I get involved, the Duke will only bother me. He sent me away for treatment anyway. Or is he just trying to put up appearances? He hasn't been looking well because of the situation with Ludva. When you first step into the temple, the grand official gives you a silver accessory, an ancient relic. They transfer their power into it and carry it with them. It's called the divine relic. Duke Icardes has been searching hard for it, but there's no way such an important thing could be sold. So to get it, he kidnapped an official. Does this have to do with the ultimate goal? I didn't read the extra credits, so I don't know the reason. In the Empire, the temple holds so much power that even the imperial family can't touch it. So even Duke Icardes can't refuse to go there. Fine, let's consider this a chance. The next day, as they were ready to go to the temple, a man said, the carriages are here, Duke. Duke says, I think they're going crazy for money. She speaks. I'm sorry, Father. Because of me? Evan asked. Father, why would you say that? You're stressing Laria out, Duke replied. It's not Laria's fault she got sick. What are you saying? I mean, it's great to meet the beggars there. Even if we can't scare them. No, I want a chance to talk as well. Thanks to this, I can finally do it, Evan asked. Did you just say they're going crazy for the money? Hearing this, she laughed and said, it's the truth. It's not my opinion. Then she got into the carriage. Evan says, travel safely, Laria, she asked. Aren't you going? Duke replied. Evan can't go to the temple, Evan said, because I wasn't baptized. She speaks. Oh, is that so? Because of that. Evan says. What? The carriage was moving slowly. She lost in thought. Evan hasn't been baptized yet. How can the only heir of Duke Icardes' family not be baptized yet? The commoners, no, even orphans line up to get baptized by the priest. Not only does it mean not getting the priest's blessings, it also means he can't step foot into the shrine. After a while, Duke speaks. No one can know that Evan isn't baptized. You should also keep it a secret, she replied. Yes, then she thought. Of course. No one knows. A huge secret that can bring chaos to the Duke family. Hayes, how awkward. I should say something, then she said. The temple's carriage looks fine, but it's not as good as our family's, don't you think? Duke added, it would be better from now on if they get money from us. Hearing this, she thought, was that supposed to be about me? Duke says, I think your body's doing better. Then she laughed. Seeing her smile, the Duke said, your face looks better, and you cough less now, right? She says, oh, yes. Serena did a really good job, he said. Is that so? Then she think, will he change the doctor if he doesn't compliment her? At that moment she speaks. But Serena said that it wasn't the main treatment. We're just making progress. She told me not to mistake it for recovery. He asked, did she now? She replied, but Father, you said you wanted to threaten no wait, to talk with the priest. What is it about? He added, it's not a big deal, she said, I'm just worried. It also bothers me that Evan's not baptized yet. The more he grows, we should be more careful. He says, he's grown. I mean, there's a certain amount of iron in human bodies. She speaks. It's really funny and fascinating, but I can't laugh as I'm worried about Evan. He says, it's not related to Evan, so you don't need to mind. Then she asked, then is it your personal business? He replied, yes. At that moment, she began to think, it's intense now. I should flatter him a bit at times like this. Then she speaks. It must not have been easy, if it's something you can't even do. Because I think there's nothing you can't do. Hearing this, he asked, Do you really think I'm that kind of person? She smiled and replied, Yes, you've worked so hard that there's even a rumor that your workroom always has lights on. No matter what happens, no matter how tiring it is, you still work until morning comes. Then she thought, even on the night of torture for Ludva, the lights were still on. She speaks, so you can do anything you want, and have everything you wish for. I really respect that. Is there something that a great person like you wants, but can have? He said. Of course, no one in this world can have what they want so easily. For example, things like the relics. Hearing this, she think, I did it. He finally mentioned the relic. Then she says, Is that so? She thought again. Father, just you wait, because I'll pay the donation money. They arrived at the temple. Priest said, Hello, Sir Duke. Seeing this, she think, Whoa, it's so crowded here. Duke says, Thank you for greeting us. Priest speaks, The only daughter-in-law of family Icardes fell sick. So of course we must do something. About that thing that I asked? You can't buy it. It's not that kind of item. Hearing this, she began to think, Are they talking about the relic? Oh my, now is not the time to lose track. Where's that person? The gold ring on the fourth finger. Gold ring. Ah, it's that person. At that moment, Priest said, Then please let me introduce them. These are the top 20 priests with the best abilities in the temple. He says, My name is Marcel. I'll grant blessings and do my best. Seeing him, she think, The priest that's my age. It's definitely him. Duke asked, Aren't you familiar with the Empire's language? Marcel replied, I studied abroad Carabantes. Empire language, not good. Still hard. Duke speaks, If you studied abroad in Carabantes, then I'm sure you have outstanding abilities. You're still young but already in the top 20 priests. Marcel asked, Do you know Carabantes? Carabantes is the sacred nation at the end of the land. The only nation using the ancient language. If he studied there, he must have participated in the most elite courses as a priest. Duck said, I got to go to Carabantes when I was young. Priest says, He has really intense energy. Maybe a few years from now, he'll be my trusted assistant. Marcel said, Thank you for your compliment. Priest speaks, You must be hungry since you traveled since early morning. So we've prepared breakfast. She asked, Are we eating in the temple? Duke said, They've taken so much. At least they can give us food. At that moment she think, Great. Good job. It's better to carry out that plan. Then Duke said, Thank you for inviting us. This is the wine that I personally brought from Oladna. If you need a clear mind to give blessings, then just leave it. Priest speaks, Not at all. It will be better if everyone's in high spirits. Hearing this, she thought, I got you. Then she said, Father, shall I pour wine for the priests? I want to express my gratitude, as they've prepared food for us. But you're not of age. Pouring wine is a bit. She added, I apologize, Father. I just wanted to do something small. Can't I? Duke says, Not at all. Just do whatever you want. She said, I'm fine. Priest said, The Duke's alcohol tolerance isn't that good. He's known for not drinking, even if the Emperor offers him. She smiled and says, Then I'll pour it for the priests first. Suddenly, the alcohol spilled from Laria's hand onto Marcel. Then she says, Oh my! What to do? I apologize. Marcel speaks, It's fine. I'll go to the bathroom now and wash. She said, What should I do? He seems mad. I should catch up and apologize again. She went after him and called out, Priest Marcel. Marcel asked, What's wrong? She replied, I have something important to say. Marcel asked, What is it you want to say? She think, Great. There's no one around. Then she said, You're a fake, right? Hearing this, Marcel shocked and asked, What are you saying? She holds his hand and then removes his ring. Marcel shouted loudly, Give it to me, she said. I was going to give it back to you anyway. I have no intention of taking it. No, but I might be able to use it more efficiently with ancient magic. He takes the ring back, puts it on, and says, You've done well, acting like a priest. Hearing this, she thought, Can he really have powers just by wearing the ancient relic? What a fraud. In the original work, Marcel was a normal person with no powers. He got an ancient magical item by chance, but instead of taking the ring to the temple, he acted as a priest. Then she asked, But why exactly? What's so good about being a priest? Wouldn't you be better off selling it? Marcel replied, You don't know anything. People will praise me if I say good things. And I get to live in a luxurious place with 6,000 food. Isn't that right? She thought, Seymour will bully people with ill intentions. In the original work, Seymour was in charge of exposing fake priests, and exposed Marcel's identity. Later, Seymour started chasing money and searching for magical items. There were 3 in the land, and exposed Marcel's identity. She said, "I won't say anything, but I have a condition." Marcel shouted loudly, "I don't have any money. I've only recently joined the temple." She think, he can speak fluently whenever the topic's about money. Then she said, "It's not money. Give me your relic." He speaks, "Are you talking about the silver relic? The one I got when I came here? It's useless to commoners with no powers." She says, "Then it's useless for you too. You're a fake." He said, "Stop saying that. I have powers when I wear the ring." She smiled and asked, "Then, a fraud?" Then she began to think. Right, you're speechless." She speaks, "Just a word from me and you're doomed. But if you give me that useless relic, you can continue to enjoy this luxurious life." "Now, what will it be?" After a while, priest said, "Come this way, please. Please show us your sincerity." Then she began to think, why did they take us to the praying room in such a rush? The priest presented the donation pledge and said, "And please show your love to your daughter-in-law." Seeing this, she think, why must he do that here in the temple? The Duke signed it. Priest says, "Thank you." She began to think, seriously, I wish all that money could come back to me. Then he stepped forward, and the priest placed both his hands on his shoulders and said, "We hope you'll all live a happy life." In Duke Icardes' family, she think again. Something's off. Priest said, "I hope the young lady will always be healthy." Then she lost in thought. It always hurts as if I'm struck by lightning. Every time I'm blessed, I have to endure it. I might be considered a heretic if I show any sign of difficulty while receiving blessings. After a while, when they were ready to leave, Laria said, "Thank you, priest. My body feels lighter already." Marcel stepped forward and says, "You're too kind. I was touched. You have such a kind heart. You even chased after me." Laria speaks, "It's nothing much. I apologize." Saying this, she began to think, "Good. You're doing exactly what I told you to do, Marcel." Marcel speaks, "I'm always here to listen, if you have anything to say, to this God's servant." She smiled and asked, "If so, can you stop by and give me blessings sometimes?" Then she said, "I really want to get better, and since the priest is my age, I'm asking comfortably like this." Priest says, "A priest coming to a noble's place is a bit." Laria smiled and speaks, "I'll donate more every time he comes by. Actually, I earned a lot of money from horse races, so I'm looking for a suitable place to make donations, and coming to the temple makes me curious about gods. It'd be great if I could learn more." Hearing this, priest said, "Yeah." Then they got into the carriage. Priest said, "Travel safely, Duke Icardes." "Young lady," Duke says, "priest giving blessings outside the temple is an exception. Indeed, the rules here are fictional. Money can solve it all." She think, "That's right." Then she said, "Father, there's this." At that moment she held out her hand and spoke, offering the relic. "I received it from Priest Marcel." Seeing this, Duke shocked and says, "This, is it, a relic?" She speaks, "Marcel said he could do without it, since his powers are great enough." Duke asked, "Is it possible?" She replied, "Well, it is, isn't it? That's why he gave it to you. He's an acknowledged genius. I want to return something for your love." Duke speaks, "About that, I was just saying it. No, but how did you find this?" She smiled and says, "I asked really hard for Priest Marcel to do it. Maybe he felt pity since I was so sick, and I promised to keep it a secret." Then she added, "Is that so? Maybe, although the priest said it was all right. I feel bad for taking another person's stuff, but I'll bear it, for you." Duke said, "How kind. I can't remember the last time someone helped us so sincerely. Thank you." Evan was walking in the garden when he saw that the carriage had arrived. Then Evan stepped forward, went up to the carriage, opened the door, held out his hand, and said, "Welcome, Laria." She says, "Oh, Evan?" Laria took his hand, got down, and thanked him. Then Duke asked, "Have you been waiting here for us?" Evan replied, "I just wanted to get to the practice field, so I stopped by." Then Duke said, "Then you can go where you want to go. Laria and I will get some tea." Laria thought, Tea time all of a sudden? Evan said, "Actually, I'm a bit tired, so I can't hold the sword. I haven't been able to sleep lately because the sunlight is too bright. I think some tea would help me sleep better." Hearing this, Laria thought, they're going to start fighting again. Duke speaks, "You're having a hard time even though there's nothing special. If you don't feel well, go to your room and stop running around." Hearing this, Laria shocked and thought, No, you don't need to say that. Even if you don't want to care." Then she smiled and said, "That's right, Evan. The sunlight's been harsher these days. I woke up early today too, Duke asked. Is that so? Then Duke called out. Morande. Morande replied. Yes, Sir Duke, Duke said. Put up some curtains in Laria's room right away. Then the Duke leaned toward her and added. Wouldn't the curtains mess up the room's decoration? By the way, what do you think about switching the room to another direction? How about a room facing southeast or northwest? It's not too bad. She's shocked and says, Father, Duke speaks, tomorrow morning, I'll host a meeting and think of the best solution. Let's prepare for the meeting, Morande. Morande replied. Yes, Sir Duke. Hearing this, she began to think. No, how can he make such a mountain out of a molehill? Then she asked. Have tea with me, Evan, he replied. Sure. At that moment, she thought. After the visit to the temple, my treatment was officially done. The Bharatna's mansion had been built, and became the place for me to rest. But the peaceful days continued like that. After a while, Evan and Laria were having tea. Suddenly, Morande knocked on the door. Evan said, Come in. Morande came inside and said, Hello, Sir Duke. Young master. He presented a letter. Evan asked. Morande. What's wrong? He replied. I came here to give you this letter. Evan asked. A letter? He replied. It's a letter for the Duke. Then he says, I'll pass on the word. Evan thanked him. Laria asked. Evan, what's that? She opened the letter and said, It's from the Academy. It's about the request to join the swordsmanship competition. I was the winner last time. The winner gets to be the judge and give out trophies. She says, Is that so? It must be fun, he said. Well, it's not important, so I won't go. She asked. Oh? Why? He replied. Even if you can't watch the elimination round. It's at least a week. She asked. What about that? He replied. Apart from the participants and those related, others can't watch. She asked again. And what about that? He replied. During that time, I'll have to leave the Duke's place. Hearing this, she shocked and asked then. What's wrong with that? He replied again. I'll have to leave you. She speaks. Evan, you've been apart from me for 13 years since birth. You're last year's winner, and you get to be TE judge. You only need to go, why wouldn't you? It's a good chance, he said. If you get sick, you'll have to leave again. She says, Evan, thank you, but I won't exactly get better if you're here. I don't want you to miss out on such an opportunity, because of me. Then she lost in thought. I'll hurt him even more if I don't do that. And I think his ego will recover a bit if he gets support from everyone at the Academy. At that moment, she stood up and asked, You know, wouldn't they put people who give out trophies in the newspapers? He replied, I guess they do it every year. She speaks. It would be meaningful if we can both appear this year. He asked. What meaning? She replied. It's just romantic if a couple gets on the newspapers the year they get married. People would think we're a great couple. Then she smiled and added, I would be so happy to see my husband wear the clothes that I picked out. If that newspaper comes, I'll cut it out and hang it in Borit, or in the mansion, and every day I'll think that I have such a great husband. Evan signed the letter. Seeing this, she asked, Evan, what are you doing? He replied, I'm responding that I'll go. Then she think, so adorable. Then Morande went to the Duke's room, opened the door, and said, Duke of Icardes. Duke asked, What's the matter? Morande came inside and replied, I came here to give you this letter. Duke asked, Who is it from? Morande replied, About that. It's from Lady Livian. The Duke was sipping his tea when he heard this, and he felt shocked. Morande asked, Are you all right? Duke replied, I'm fine. Then the Duke opened the letter, read it, and sat down holding his head. Seeing this, he asked, What does it say? Then the Duke stood up and slammed his hand on the table and said, Call in all the servants immediately. We must prepare to greet her. Lisa tells Olivia Bonnet Livian. She is Duke Icardes' aunt, and his only living relative in the family. She married Count Livian, a grand noble of the south, at a young age. She never forgets the Icardes bloodline that runs through her veins. She is also the grand villainess of the story, who constantly harasses Ilani. I can't let the Icardes bloodline get stained like that, Lisa said. Miss Olivia dislikes being called Madame Livian. Then Lisa asked, Is the previous dress prettier? Laria asked. Does the dress I wear really matter that much? Lisa replied. Of course. Miss Olivia really hates inappropriate clothes. Let's see this dress. I can't let her see any imperfection, Laria thought. It's my first time seeing Lisa this stressed out. Suddenly, a maid came and tells, My lady, Miss Olivia has arrived at the main gate. Laria had arrived to receive them, She was getting off the carriage. Seeing her, Laria thinks, wow, she's so beautiful. So glamorous. Look at that pearl. You can feel the wealth in every step she takes. I want to be like that when I'm old, Duke said. Hello, Aunt. It's been a long time since we last met. At that moment, she bowed and said, I'm Laria Rose Icardes. It's a pleasure to meet you, Aunt Olivia. It's my honor, Aunt Olivia says. I suppose you've found someone who resembles your dead wife. I mean, she looks exactly like a small squirrel, Duke said. I think what you're saying is a bit inappropriate. Then Aunt Olivia asked, That's what I should be saying. Are you in your right mind? How could you bring a sick girl here and make her marry Evan? Can someone in this family truly live with a woman who looks so much like his dead wife? Hearing this, Laria thought, she didn't come after I married Evan. Why did she decide to come now? Maybe she's happy that I recovered. We married in a rush, but my body is still weak. Perhaps that's why she's displeased. After a while, Aunt Olivia said, I didn't want to bring it up from the start. Why, out of everyone in the world, did you choose a fallen nobleman's daughter? Isn't that insane? Then she shouted loudly, You can't even choose a proper daughter-in-law, let alone educate Evan correctly. Are you planning to abandon Evan and become a useless count? Hearing this, Duke replied, Come to think of it, you're right. Then he said, Laria, I apologize for arranging the wedding without consulting your doctor first. At least I gave you a beautiful wedding dress. I'll write a proposal letter when Evan comes. She think, I don't need any of that. Then Duke speaks, What about the social life of children my age? I'll instruct the nobles to prepare wedding gifts. Laria began to think, Father, please don't do such useless things. Aunt Olivia shouted loudly, Stop this nonsense. Are you crazy? Then she held her head and said, I should have realized earlier. You've gone mad. Duke speaks, I think it's because you're getting old. Everyone likes it here. So does Laria, Aunt Olivia says. When did you become so humorous? You really are something different. Seeing how you've charmed Icardes, from my experience, people like you always get stabbed from behind. Laria thought, How did she know? Does she feel great? Aunt said, I don't think she can help you, with a face that innocent. Hearing this, Laria thought, That's a bit harsh. Then she says, Aunt, I know I have many shortcomings. I apologize for making you worried. Then she began to think, I have to keep my manners for now, so that everyone will be on my side. After a while, Aunt Olivia shouted loudly, Look at that. That's why I had to come here myself. She's just like Matilda, needlessly kind. Follow me. Right now. Laria got scared and asked, What? Aunt, what are you talking about? She replied, No matter how much chaos I make, it doesn't change that you're an Icardes. Then she shouted loudly again, Don't open your eyes so wide. Chin up. Say everything that's on your mind. Laria said, I've always had round eyes since birth. I apologize. She asked, Ha, do you actually have the guts to do it, or are you just foolish? Is it that easy to say sorry? Laria replied, I don't know about that. She stepped forward and speaks. This won't do. There's no need for treatment in Bharatna. South Livian is fine. There are forests there as well. What's more, you'll follow me to receive a proper education. Duke asked, Does that mean you're returning to Livian? She replied, Yes, I'm going with her. I'll teach you there myself. After a while, Laria sat in her room, thought, What just happened? Serena picks up his dress, standing in front of her, and says, Why Livian? That's a big problem. Hanlia and Livian are far apart. Managing the estate will be much harder. Laria asked, What should we do? She replied, There's nothing else to do. We only have one way. Thought it's a bit strange. Then Laria asked, What is it? She replied, It's to please Miss Olivia. She asked, Please her? She replied, Didn't she say you wouldn't be able to help Duke Icardes? In other words, she won't need to drag you away anymore if your existence helps the Duke. So if she likes you, she won't bring you to Livian. Therefore, we have no choice but to do our best. Laria said, But, she speaks. Miss Olivia often speaks harshly. It must not be easy for you to take it all in and please her. Laria says, No, I'm great at suffering. Then she thought, Still, words alone aren't enough to make someone like me in such a short time. Then can it be the only why? Laria said, Serena, I have something to ask you. She says, Please say it. Laria gave her a paper while speaking. Please buy this for me the next time you're at the Duke's house. She takes it and asks, Will that work? Laria replied, Yes. And I'll take care of things next. Aunt Olivia was sitting in her room, watching something, when there was a knock at the door. she asked. Who's that? Laria replied. It's me, Laria. Then Laria asked, do you want to have tea with me? The next day, Laria came and said, Great Aunt, she asked. Hayes, so you come at this hour every time? Laria asked. I wonder if you're busy? She asked. Do you think I'm busy right now? At that moment, Laria asked. Then, would you like to have some tea with me today? Then she asked. Why would I waste my time on such things? Then she said, Actually, coming to this mansion itself is already a waste of time. Laria says, Thank you? She asked. What do we have today? Laria replied, It's strawberry cake. The old manager of the bakery retired due to illness 13 years ago. His son took over, but the flavor is still the same as before. Then Laria began to think. Just as I suspected, Great Aunt Olivia likes sweets. Just like Duke Icardes, she said. It's you. I'm only eating this because you brought it here. What were you thinking? Preparing all of this? Then she asked. How did you know? I liked cake from that bakery? Laria smiled and replied. I asked Serena to do some research. I something craved food that I ate when I was little as well. You lived in Livian for a while, so I thought you'd miss the things you once had, and I prepared this. She thought. To be precise, it's the dishes that adults tend to forget as they grow up, but I'm sure people still prefer the food from their childhood. In her eyes, I'm an odd child, but, Laria smiled and said, I really want to be of help to Duke Icardes. She asked, Are you thinking straight? Laria replied, Father has paid off all of my family's debts, and Evan is really kind to me as well. So I want to do something for you too. I don't have the strength to support Evan properly. I'm still sick, she says. You understand the situation better than I thought. Laria asked, Do you mean I know my position? Thank you. Hearing this, she I think I understand why my nephew likes this kid. She's adorable, and it's hard not to like her after living together for a while. Then Laria asked, Would you like more tea? Seeing her, she thought again. The fact that she's unbothered by Culloden's jokes might mean that she's just that kind and is able to accept those mean jokes. But if she's forcing her smiles, there's darkness behind them. It's like I'm better so much on a horse rave. I can't let this go. I should have investigated her more. Then she suddenly starts coughing violently. She asked, What's wrong? What's with you? Are you hurt? Then she shouted loudly, Servants, get in here. Don't die. Don't die here. I mean, my heart is really weak. Laria suddenly sits down on the floor. Laria said, Huh! It's truly surprising. Hawk, she shouted loudly. I'll hit you if you die in front of me, and turn into a ghost to haunt me. Laria suddenly sits down on the floor, and her hand touches the floor tile. Then Laria Here it is. And Olivia asked, What are you doing? Did you hit your head? Laria replied, Great Aunt Olivia. Doesn't this sound strange? Then she touches the tile and says, I think there's an empty space below. Isn't this your room? Did you know about it? Aunt Olivia said. What? I've never checked the floor before. Laria speaks. I think we should get a servant to help. The servant came, sat down, touched the tile, and said, I'm pretty sure there's an empty space here. Then he took out a tool and added, I'll try to pull it out. And Olivia asked, What's down there? He replied, Oh, I can see a box in the corner. Then he took it out, placed it on the table, and said, I suppose it's really old. Laria asked, Shall I open it? Hearing this, and Olivia asked, What if something dangerous is inside? Laria said, extending her hand forward. Still, it could affect Duke Icardes if someone else opens it. Just let me do it, Aunt Olivia says. Wait. When it was opened, there was a very old book inside. Aunt Olivia says. This? Laria asked. Doesn't it look like a book? Aunt Olivia said. A book? Laria speaks. It seems to have been here for a very long time. When she opened the book, the words Soleil Cardi Icardes were written on it. And Olivia asked, Isn't that the first owner of this room? Laria said. Oh my. Then she read it. Soleil founded the Icardes name. He lived thousands of years ago. Books from that generation are extremely rare, so they have great academic values, and possess immense academic value. After a few years, Soleil was able to obtain information about ancient magical items. People began searching for clues, leading to the fact that Duke Icardes has the book. After that, many people used money to trade for information in the book. Then a man came into the Duke's office and asked, Can you name the price for the first Duke Icardes book? Duke replied, How arrogant. Sir Soleil didn't appreciate things that bothered him. There's no way he wrote a book, he asked. What if I can find it? Duke replied. Then I'll give you money that's worth all of your clan's property. Isn't that just a gold mine? And just like that, Duke Icardes lost a gold mine. After reading this, she thought, Seymour would live wealth and wouldn't need any gold mines. He's the male lead. Great Aunt Olivia will be impressed with me for putting the family on top. Then Aunt Olivia asked, How did you know about this? Laria replied, I don't know if it's because of my weak body, but I've more luck compared to others. Then Aunt Olivia shouted loudly, Hey, what are you doing? Call the Duke immediately. Lisa replied, Yes, Aunt Olivia said. And you? She hugged Laria and then said, You're the blessing of this family. Duke and Morande will come after a while. Morande was looking at the book, and Duke asked him, What's the matter? Morande replied, There's a magical seal of the Icardes clan on this. This is Lydia Icardes' diary. Aunt Olivia said, How can it be? Then she says to Laria, You really are a blessing. Great job. Duke asked, Didn't you say she wouldn't be of any help? Aunt Olivia replied, If she's Icardes' blessing, then she is my luck as well. This isn't the time to be sarcastic. Hearing this, Laria thought, It's not over yet. I still have my final act. Aunt Olivia asked, Then what will we do with the book? Duke replied, It's Laria who found it. Let her decide. Aunt Olivia shouted, Culloden! Although Laria found the book, it's still Icardes' property. How can you leave such an important thing to a 14-year-old? Duke added, Without this 14-year-old, this book would just be under your room's floor. If so, we should think about this again. Hearing this, Laria said, I want to donate it. And Olivia grabbed her head and says, I knew it. How can you give such a terrible answer? I hate donations more than anything in this world. I'm going crazy. Why must it be a donation? Laria smiled and replied, For the Academy. Hearing this, and Olivia shocked and said, Academy? Duke says, Tell me more about it. Laria speaks, Well, I'm not sure. It's an ancient book, so it must have great academic value. I think researchers might need it. This idea was originally Evan's, Laria added. If this book is used as a reference in the future, wouldn't it increase the Icardes family's reputation? What's more, maintenance will be ensured as well. And Olivia speaks, Though noblemen don't go to the Academy, scholars are all there, and scholars write down events in history. Evan's still going to the Academy. Can you please reconsider? How can you have these thoughts? Laria smiled and said, Oh, it's just, Evan's still in the Academy, so I thought of this. I think it will benefit Evan. Aunt Olivia says, I don't think he should go to Livian anymore. Laria began to think, I did it. I think a person who brings such luck, and cares so much about this family, would plan to escape. I'd escape with or without Great Aunt Olivia. Aunt Olivia says, Instead, I'll set your social status, which Culloden neglected. I mean, even if you went away for treatment, you'd come back. I heard you still don't have a godmother, right? Laria replied, Yes, since no one wanted to be involved with the Lostree's debts. I didn't even dream of having a godmother. Then Aunt Olivia speaks. The most important thing right now is social relationships. Culloden, choose famous families in the capital as candidates. In the time I'm here, I'll train you. It's the kind of education that will help you greet noblemen. Laria said. What? Aunt Olivia added. It starts tonight. I'll be waiting for you in your room. Hearing this, Laria began to think, Is she joking? Miss Olivia really went to my room that night. Aunt Olivia says, You'd have a difficult time without noblemen's support. People can easily look down on you, so you need to make a great impression. Heavier makeup, sharper eyes. You look like a grasshopper that can't do anything. Laria began to think, Do I look like a grasshopper? Aunt Olivia said, You can't be like Matilda. Hearing this, Laria said, Miss Matilda? Aunt Olivia shouted loudly. I get so frustrated remembering everything Matilda went through. Then she speaks calmly. She was weak since birth, so everyone despised her. People envied that someone like her became the Duchess of the Icardes family. Even with that weak body, she accepted pregnancy. As the doctors warned, she gave birth and passed away, just like those evil women wanted. Hearing this, Laria thought, So Great Aunt Olivia didn't come because she disliked me. She thought of Matilda, so she came for me. Aunt Olivia says, Who knew she'd die before this old lady? Laria thought again. She's just one of those people who are still suffering after Matilda's death. Aunt Olivia speaks. She wasn't well, so she died at a young age. Then she shouted loudly, You should know your palace. I mean, you must live a long life. Then Laria says, Great Aunt, though you were harsh, I think my mother was really happy. Hearing this, Aunt Olivia said, What? Laria speaks. I think it was great of you to deal with those people for my mother, she says. I had to, Laria said. She didn't have to think about those people with someone like you to protect her, right? She added. You really sound like Matilda. Still Culloden couldn't take it. Hearing this, Laria began to think, I suspected this. Then she smiled and said, but you did a great job. With you on my side, I have nothing to fear, she said. Are you flattering me? Sweet words won't improve your health. Laria think, wow. Isn't she a bit harsh now? She speaks. Still, at this age, things that are good for my health tend to be boring. So say more, Laria says. Great Aunt Olivia, she said. I told you to think of Evan more often. It's still a prearranged marriage. Will it really be alright? Laria added. Of course. We get along very well. I want to live a happy life. Hearing this, she speaks. Right. It's hard for a kid like you to adapt. Normally, people go for men who are 4 years older than them, so they have someone to rely on. I also like that. Then she asked. Still, Evan seems fine. What do you like most about him? At that moment, Laria thought. What I like most? Well, Evan has many good sides. He was the winner of the swordsmanship competition, the top of the academy, and the heir of the duke, Laria said. He's very cute, she says. Cute? Then Laria think. I'm not even sure. I should have answered seriously. Evan's the only heir of Duke Icardes. Is it possible to redeem myself now? After a while she said, in the end, so you like Evan a lot. To be real, looking cute doesn't mean that a person is cute. I can be assured now. No matter what happens, I think you'll make the right decisions for Evan. No matter what happens, you will do what's best for Evan. Hearing this, Laria thought. Me, I don't think so. In the end, I'll choose the path that benefits me. Suddenly, Lisa came and said, there are a few letters sent to the Duke. Hearing this, Aunt Olivia shocked and said, What? Lisa speaks. The Duke picked out a few candidates for the godmother position, and many people sent letters in response. Here are some letters, she says. Let me see. I need to look at the candidates. Aunt Olivia opened the letter, and when Laria saw it, she started thinking. Oh, the list is full of popular people. Indeed, the Icardes family sure is different, she says. No one is worth considering. Then she crumpled the letter and shouted loudly. All these letters are the same. Return them, Lisa replied. There's no one in the capital that the Duke hasn't messed with. He said not to listen to your decision. Everything must be done according to Lady Laria's will. Hearing this, she shocked and said, What? This damned Culloden! At that moment, Laria began to think. Indeed, a person with power. His sight is extraordinary, she said. He dares to say that? When did I mess with others? Listen to me, for example, Laria asked. Hey Lisa, did he say that I could decide everything? Lisa replied. Yes. Hearing this, she shouted loudly. What does that mean? I'm Laria's great aunt. Me, how can you do this without asking me? I have the greatest role in the Icardes family. This is unbelievable. Then Laria said, Great aunt, I made a decision. She stood up and asked. Who? What kind of woman? Lisa said. It's you, Lady Laria. Godmother isn't like that. Normally close relatives in the family can't be the godmother. She shouted loudly again. My last name is Livian. Laria began to think. Didn't she just say she had the greatest role in the Icarde family? Having Olivia as the godmother is like losing a part of power in this nobleman's society. But I'll escape once I get better anyway, so I can't depend on other families. After a while, Laria stepped forward and asked, Great Aunt Olivia, will you be my godmother? After hearing this, she felt a bit relieved and replied, Oh my, this is my first time being asked to be a godmother, Lisa said. Miss Olivia, please think of Lady Laria, she shouted loudly. I'm the greatest here. I'll do whatever pleases me. Go away. Stop bothering me. Lisa turned back and said, Then please excuse me. Then she smiled and says, I haven't got a daughter yet. And now I finally do. At that moment, Laria thought, Oh my, I didn't expect her to like it so much. Did I make a mistake? Aunt Olivia was ready to return. She was standing near the carriage, and the Duke and Laria were standing there to say goodbye to her. After that moment, Duke asked, Are you really going? She replied, There's nothing left to do, so I have to return. Then Laria said, But Evan's coming back from the academy today. You should at least see his face once before going. She stepped forward and says, I love him, but not that much, though you're just like any other normal squirrel. Then the N handed her the folding fan and speaks. Since you're my daughter now, I have a present for you. If someone looks down on you, just open this fan. People here know my reputation, so they won't dare do anything to you. Laria took it and said, Thank you, Great Aunt Olivia. Then she returned to the carriage and says, See you later. I'll come when you need my help. Stay healthy. Laria speaks. Oh, goodbye, Aunt. No, Godmother. Aunt Olivia put her hand out of the carriage window and made a victory sign. Then Laria asked, Father, where are you going? Duke replied, There's much unfinished work. Laria speaks. You've worked all night. Please don't overwork yourself. The Duke placed his hand on her head and said, Thank you for worrying about me. Then he left. Seeing him left, she thought, I also should go. Suddenly, Evan came and says, Laria. Laria said, Evan, welcome home. Evan added, Yeah, I'm back. Then he said, gesturing, I brought all the newspapers, with my pictures from the sword competition. The picture quality is different in each paper, so pick the one you like most. She smiled and says, Thank you. Then Laria opened the holding fan, and seeing this, Evan asked, But what's that? She replied, My godmother gave it to me. What do you think? Does it suit me? He smiled and says, Since you're holding it, it looks as beautiful as a painting, she said, and Great Aunt became my godmother. He speaks. What? Laria, that choice isn't good for you, though it's not forbidden. Then he asked, Anyway, are you hurt anywhere today? Are you all right? She replied, Yeah, I'm really fine. It's nothing serious, so don't worry. Then he asked, Is there anything I can do to help you? Hearing this, she thought, Evan's been thinking a lot about me lately. Well, I hope he can be honest with me. Then they came into the room, and Laria sat on the bed, happy, and said, I wish my bedroom were filled with money. Then my heart would be full as well. And no matter what happens, you must make sure the acacia trees stay where they are. He says, You really know how to make jokes, saying weird things like that. Then Evan sat down and said, I must go with you. She smiled and added, Serena will come with me. Don't worry. He speaks. But is that doctor a good person? My impression of her isn't great. Hearing this, she speaks. What are you talking about? Serena is a good person. I learned many things from her. She really is a great doctor. He asked. Is that so? She replied. Then stop worrying and focus on your study and become a great husband. He replied. I got it. I'll try my best. She says. Good, good. You really are a good person. Shall we go to sleep now? After a while, Laria was sleeping on the bed. Evan looked at her and thought, I haven't been able to practice much, because I'm always around her. Then Evan took the lantern and went out of the room, and he thought, I should go practice while Laria's sleeping. Then he heard someone crying and saw Cobb sitting in the corner, crying. Evan stepped forward and asked, What's wrong, Cobb? About that. What kind of girl? It's all because she's messing with me. I'm messing with you. Yes, I thought things were going well, but it's not what I expected. Then Evan recalls that, Cobb said, the person I like broke up with her partner, and our relationship is going well. At that moment Evan said, Oh my, is it the girl he mentioned before? Cobb said while crying, the dungeon guard, the chef, and me. She messed with everyone. Evan says, I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear this anymore. I have something to do. Cobb said, Serena, that girl. When he heard this, he stopped, turned around, and asked, Did you just say Serena? Inside the prison, guards stood on duty to guard a prisoner. A guard said, He's going to die at this rate. Another guard says, Death would be more humane. I heard Duke Evan was hit while training, and he thought it was normal. First guard speaks. The Duke is back today, right? Miss Olivia left. All of a sudden, Duke Icardes came in. Guard saw him and says, Duke Icardes. The Duke came near the prison and said, Open the gate. 15 years ago. Matilda said. Culloden asked, Did you go out with Vice Captain Rudba today? Then he added, I ordered 3 escorts to follow you. Hearing this, Matilda smiled and replied, Something came up, so they had to deal with it. But nothing happened. Culloden said angrily. But, then Duke thought, no matter how I think about it, Rudba did it on purpose. I don't like how he's so close to Matilda every day. Culloden says, firing him would be better. Matilda speaks. No, Icardes, Rudba is a candidate for the next night position. I won't let it happen again. So don't do this. Culloden reply. Okay, Matilda. Duke smiled and says, I should have done that before, but I let it go. Isn't that right? Then the Duke showed him a book and said, Just in time. My daughter-in-law found a treasure. This is Loladia Icardes' diary, and his record of life back then. He even wrote in detail about torture methods. Hearing this, prisoner shouted loudly. Then the Duke opened it and said, "Now then, let's see what they did in the past." The next day, Evan asked, "Laria, have you ever thought about getting another doctor?" she asked. "What's wrong?" he replied. "It's just, I don't really like her." Hearing this, she think, "What's the matter? Did Evan find out something?" Then she speaks firmly. "I don't think anyone's better than Serena. I always felt like I was deteriorating when I was with the Earl, but I got better after I met Serena. I should have done that," he says. "I should have attended a medical academy. If I had passed that test, I'd have a medical degree. I could have even been the valedictorian." She began to think. Only commoners go there. What is he talking about? Then he said, "Oh, right, I ordered more beds and furniture for your mansion. You said you wanted to fill the place with expensive things. Finding acacia trees was hard. But I did it," she says. "Oh my, thank you." Then she thought, "I only mentioned it as a joke. I didn't expect him to remember everything." He speaks, "I'll come often, so don't be kind to other boys. Don't smile or even talk to them. Do you understand?" Hearing this, she shocked and said, "What? I learned something from Ludva." At that moment, he leaned toward her and says, "I won't tolerate any man who catches my wife's attention. That person might affect future generations. I can't let it go." She began to think, "No way. Is that why he got mad at Redian?" Then she recalls that Evan asked, "Why do you keep staring at Laria?" Redian got scared. Judging by his expression, he still misses Matilda. After all, he's just a child. Staying away from him is the right decision. At the moment, Lisa came and said, "Lady Laria, the Duke is calling for you." She replied, "Okay, I got it." After a while, she went up to the Duke and asked, "Did you call me, Father?" Duke replied, "Yes, I have something to say. If you've decided to go to Bharatna, I'll need to arrange a party to announce your presence in that area. You're not feeling well, but I have no other choice. For a long-term stay, the people must know about you." Hearing this, she began to think, "The people. I only learned a few basic things from Great Aunt Olivia. It's a small place. I don't think it'll be a big deal." Then Duke speaks, "You're kind and weak, so I'm not sure you can adapt. I might be busy, so I'll ask Evan to go on my behalf." She think again. "He doesn't need to go either." Then she said, "Father, I don't want to be in Evan's way. I really worried about how my disease might cause burden the Icardes family, and Evan's busy with his classes as well." At the moment she think, "So please don't send him there." Duke says, "Okay, then just go inside if you're tired. You're an Icardes. No one will dare say anything." She think again. "Isn't this a bit too much?" Meanwhile, a carriage stopped, and Seymour asked, "Baron, we've arrived at Manhua Manor," then came outside and says, "Is that so? So this is Hanla." And then he saw something and said, "Huh, what's that over there? Looks like a huge construction." Baron added, "Oh, that's where young Duke Icardes' lady is staying for treatment." Seymour asked, "Treatment? Why?" Baron replied, "I'm not sure. It seems she's sick, but it won't kill her. I heard it's pneumonia, but not contagious." Then Seymour went down the stairs and asked, "Why must she come here?" Baron replied, "There's a rumor that Duke Icardes really loves his daughter-in-law, so they're rebuilding everything." Seymour saw it. Baron said, "This way. There's going to be a huge party, so accessory shops around here are very busy." Seymour says, "A party." Then he thought, "I want to meet Duke Icardes in person." Baron speaks, "I think the Duke is preoccupied with checking the territory, so he won't join the party. Would you like to come?" Seymour replied, "Sure, I'm a local now." Then he smiled and said, "I must go to the party." The Dark Intelligence Guild. Sven smiled and said, "Welcome, Serena." She says, "It's been a while, Seymour." He speaks, "It really has. I heard you've been busy down at the craft workshop. Do you think you've forgotten about your main job and focused on your hobbies too much?" She added, "It's a part of my job to collect information. You should know." Then he asked, "Then did you and Laria do it?" She replied, "You mean Redian Care's paintings? It's not the time yet, so just wait." He says, "Indeed, you've already expected it." After Serena left Redian Care's painting, the painting's prices skyrocketed. She asked, "But hey, do you know why that artist is so famous?" He replied, "About that. Seymour's working on it." Then she speaks, "Wow, letting him do it just won't do. What's up with copying Redian of Hanyu?" He added, "I heard Laria found out something. I suppose it's because you brought her from salon to salon, right? Then he asked. How can she have it? She replied. Anyway, we'll meet Laria to talk. We can finally meet at last. Well, host a party in Baratna just as expected. It's better not to draw any attention. Hearing this, he added, Great. We can discuss the conditions with her then. I'm sure Lady Laria will accept it willingly. Evan and Laria were sitting in the garden. Laria thought, Evan's been strange lately. She asked. Hey Evan, aren't you going to training sessions? He replied. Yeah, morning sessions are cancelled for now. I plan to spend as much time as possible caring for you. Hearing this, she began to think, how frustrating. He always seems to be close to Serena these days. Does Evan like Serena? It's not fun being misunderstood. Suddenly, Lisa came and said, Lady Laria, Duke Icardes is calling for you. She says, Oh, I got it. Evan, I'm leaving now, he said. Okay. Laria was going to the Duke when at that moment Serena came to her and spoke. Duke Evan's mood has been unstable lately. You should be careful with your words, Laria added. I see that it hasn't been normal. But he's still young, it's all right, Lisa says. They're here, Sir Duke. Then she asked. You called for me, father? Duke replied. Yes, that's right. Have a seat. Then he asked. Have you prepared anything for the party? She smiled and replied. Yes, I'm planning to have my dress made tomorrow with Lisa. At that moment, Duke asked to Lisa, Does the tailor know how to design? Lisa replied. Yes, Sir Duke. We're going to take her to the best tailors in the empire. Then he asked to Morande, Is the preparation done? Morande replied. Yes, everything's going according to plan. I picked out experienced maids and sent them to Baratna. He asked again, If you need anything else, just tell me. She smiled and replied. Yes, Sir Duke. Father, it's my fault. I apologize, he says. It's all right. You don't need to mind it, she said. Baratna is small, so I'm not that worried, he added. Because it's small, there are more problems. They'll be more aware of what's happening with the nobles. You'll be judged by your clothes and actions. Right, I have to prepare more for the party. I must make them respect us. Then she think, he sounds just like a godmother, he said, and they'll take issue with you for the smallest things. So don't bother about that. Hearing this, she began to think, why should I? I'm going to escape anyway, and I'm not that pathetic. Then she said, Yes, father, I'll listen to you. Thank you, I'll go now. Does he still want to say something? He asked. Don't you need money? You never know when you'll need money, and Evan won't be around either. What if you need money? She began to think. Did he forget how much money I made after the horse race? But the more the better. Those notebooks and crayons? Oh, I got it. Then she went to the notebook, picked it up, and asked, Father, then will you give me money if I draw for you? Then she said, You'll remember me whenever you look at them. So I'll draw for you, he replied. Okay then. She started drawing, and when the Duke saw her, he said, You have talents. Should I get a teacher for you? She asked. Really? Then do you know what this is? He saw it and replied, Ugly things that are spreading uncontrollably. Fire from hell? She smiled and said, They're trees. Then she asked, Father, how about this? He replied, Such a striking face. An angel? Hearing this, she think, It's you holding a sword. Well, it's better than nothing. I'll just paint a lot of them now. Then she said, I'll work hard on these paintings, and send you one each week, she thought. In the end, I drew 30 paintings that day. I got a bag full of gold. Meanwhile, in Baratna, a young lady said, Karen. Karen asked. What's the matter? She asked. When can you give me back the money I lent you last month? Karen replied. I'll pay you back. It's not like I'm running away with your money. Then Karen asked, Why are you so pressed? She replied, You might not pay back if I don't say anything. You must pay me back. I have to buy a dress this week. Karen asked. Why? She replied. Didn't you hear that Duke Icardes is hosting a party in Baratna? It's a huge party. Everyone's making a fuss. I heard Duke Icardes really loves his daughter-in-law. Karen says, His daughter-in-law? You mean Laria Losstree? Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, as it really helps our channel grow. Thanks.